First points and first podium of the season for Jenson Button. Now you see it, now you don't. Since Imola, BAR have been thrown out and banned by a court in Paris. The trucks have left Barcelona. They won't be going to Monaco. They're missing a magnificent fiesta. Fernando Alonso's Renaults won the last 3 Grand Prix. Now he wants the capacity Spanish crowd to see another victory with their own eyes. It's a beautiful early summer's day. The Catalunya circuit has caught Fernando fever. Welcome to race 5 of F1 2005, the Spanish Grand Prix. Good afternoon. He's only 23. He is quiet and unassuming. His hometown Oviedo is 700 miles away, but Fernando Alonso has lit the F1 flame here in Spain. It's a coincidence, but the colours of his region, Asturias, are yellow and blue, exactly the same as his team, Renault. Let's check how Alonso fared in qualifying.
Well, all season long, we've seen the gaps between the cars in first qualifying getting smaller and smaller. And here in Barcelona, Martin, 7/100ths of a second separating the front 4. And Mark Webber in 6th, only 0.2 of a second down. It was going to be really close for second qualifying.
Absolutely, all through the grid. There were 3 distinct groups that were pretty close together. And then even the groups were just a few tenths apart, as you say, James. Interesting strategy overnight then. Are you going to go on the attack and lighten your fuel load? Or are you going to be looking over your shoulder and defending your qualifying 1 position?
The crowds have been pouring in from all over Spain to salute their new hero, Fernando Alonso. Could he grab pole? Well, certainly to start with, Thiago Montero's blow-up didn't help matters.
Now, the engine was just failing as he went over the line, and then lifting off the throttle, it blew itself to pieces. An engine change for him.
Juan Montoya, though, difficult first qualifying for him, having been one of the first cars out, but a stunning performance in the second qualifying really put him up amongst them. 7th on the grid, his reward.
Yeah, it's a big and good recovery from Juan Pablo Montoya. Hopefully he's got enough fuel on board to take him a good way into the race.
David Coulthard looking for another top 10 qualifying position. Red Bull Racing hooked up at this racetrack.
Yeah, the car's going better than it has done previously in Imola and Bahrain. They look like they're back on the pace. They've been solid top 10 contenders all weekend. He starts 9th on the grid.
Well, Giancarlo Fisichella had 0.2 of a second in his pocket over David Coulthard going into his lap, but he had some other scalps in mind as well, not least that of one solid lap from Fisichella.
Yes, he was only 1.6 seconds slower than yesterday's qualifying 1 time, suggesting he could have gone a little bit lighter on fuel in order to leapfrog a few other runners.
He ended up 6th eventually on the grid. Rubens Barrichello didn't set a time. He's taken an engine change, different strategy for him. He'll start from the back of the grid.
Yes, didn't go out at all. He wanted to save that fuel, but Michael Schumacher did run and struggled, running wide on a couple of apexes and generally failing to get enough heat in those Bridgestone tyres on the first flying lap. And he's under pressure in the back end of the top 10 on the grid.
Yeah, the Ferrari much better on the race distance than in qualifying, but the surprise package undoubtedly was Mark Webber, 6th after the first qualifying session, but an absolutely stunning lap in the Williams, which had an engine problem on Friday. Didn't run at all for Mark Webber, pushes him right up onto the front row of the grid. Williams' first front row of the season.
Yes, another man, though, only 1.6 slower than yesterday, but this man, Raikkonen, made an error in qualifying 1 and very much put that right in second qualifying. He goes fastest, a 1 minute 16.6 on his hot lap this morning. He's got pole by 1/4 of a second. Excellent effort, the McLaren really looking fast. Is it reliable enough?
Well, it heaped pressure on Fernando Alonso. He always knew, as you could see on his sector times as he did the lap, he wasn't going to match Raikkonen. The crowd still believed right up until the last few inches of his qualifying lap, but in the end, Alonso sliding down into third place behind Raikkonen and Webber.
But he was super confident in the press conference, so Alonso clearly with good fuel load. But the Toyota of Trulli didn't look a patch on yesterday. He was fighting it all the way round.
It was 4-0 in qualifying between him and Ralf Schumacher in Trulli's favour. Here for the first time in the season, Ralf Schumacher faster than his teammate in qualifying. Nevertheless, Trulli fifth on the grid.
Starting the top 3 again is a very good position and a very good chance to do a good race.
The Renault usually have a good start, but last race they were not any stronger than us, so I'm more hopeful that we can keep our place in the start now.
It's going to be a good race. We're hopefully getting a podium and we'll do our best to stay there.
Let's go on board with Mark Webber. He was equal fastest on a 1:16.6 this morning. Let's see how he did it. 200 miles an hour down into turn 1. This newly resurfaced racetrack, 14 turns, 4.6 kilometres, just under 3 miles. He's into turn 3 already. It's a never-ending right-hander where the nose of the car tends to wander wide. A short straight down to 4, a bumpy braking zone. You tend to turn in early and then just let the car ease off. Open up the steering wheel and get maximum acceleration, flicking it to the right-hand side with the downhill braking of turn 5, where it's very easy to lock an inside wheel. On track, sweeping through 6, nothing for a driver to do there. 7 at the foot of the hill. You have to get the nose in, straighten the car up on the curb, point it up the hill to the blind Campser corner with a skinny curve on the exit. There it is. I'll diagonal the straight to be on the right-hand side for a heavy braking zone, 180 miles an hour. Down to 55, kissing the white line on the inside, sweeping through turn 11 across the curb, and the car stays arrow straight. You have to be patient now through 12 and floor the throttle, traction control working, overtime 13, very fast, and you have never-ending acceleration into 14. There is the end of the lap already. Wonderful time from Mark Webber, a front row grid slot.
A shorter grid for the Spanish Grand Prix, no BARs. Raikkonen's revised McLaren the second pole in a row. And Webber's Williams, his first front row since Malaysia last year. Alonso looking for a fast start. Ralf Schumacher fourth for Toyota. Trulli fifth, dropped from first yesterday to fifth. Sixth, Fisichella in the Renault. Montoya seventh, back for McLaren after 2 races out. And eighth, Michael Schumacher struggled over 1 lap. Ninth, Coulthard for Red Bull Racing. 10th, Massa Sauber. 11th, Liuzzi made mistakes in the first session. 12th, Villeneuve, mystified by lack of pace. 13th, Carthagene's Jordan, his best grid ever. Albers and Friesacker in the Minardis, 14th and 15th. Whilst at the back, 16th, 17th and 18th. Barrichello, Heidfeld and Montero, all there because of engine changes.
Thanks for that, Tony. Tony with me down here in the paddock. We'll talk about Alonso in just a moment. What about the 2 fellas in front of him, Raikkonen and Mark Webber in the Williams? How much fuel is there in that Williams tank, do you reckon?
Might be a little bit light. Big question mark is, can he get off the line? It's been a slog off the line, that car. They've been at Silverstone just practicing their starts. Again, they arrive with loads and loads of aerodynamic parts, which they've thrown at the Williams car. And this has proved to be very, very effective. Heidfeld looking on. Heidfeld starting up at the back. Kimi Raikkonen in the revised McLaren. This is amazing. They've worked on this suspension so it can turn into the medium bends. More power in the Mercedes. Second pole in a row. And I fancy his chances, but reliability, he quit on lap 9 at the last race with a drive shaft.
He was there last year. It didn't last race, I should say. The McLaren Mercedes didn't last. Michael Schumacher in the last race charged through the field and ended up right behind Fernando Alonso. Same again here, Tony?
I don't think so, Jim. Very different situation. The temperatures were lower. The new Bridgestones were working very well. A major factor at Imola. Here they're struggling over 1 lap. In the first sector he's fast. The changing conditions and not being able to adapt the car quick enough are a problem. And also a problem they've not seen before, Jim. Barrichello's engine, a suspected cracked block. Could Schumacher's engine be of the same batch? They're not sure at the moment.
Tony, thank you very much indeed. So then we have an 18-car grid because Jenson Button and Takuma Sato, the BARs, will not be allowed to race here or indeed in a couple of weeks' time in Monte Carlo. Suddenly, their season has turned very sour.
This was meant to be a great weekend for BAR. The car is fast and Jenson's at the top of his form. But now the team have pulled out, and rather than driving at 200 miles an hour, Jenson Button and Takuma Sato have been in hiding. It's crushed the spirits of everyone in the team. The controversy is all about whether BAR used fuel as ballast. Their designers saw a grey area in the rules and took advantage of it. As they told the FIA courtroom, the rule on weight says the car must never run less kilos, but it does not specify whether that's to be measured with or without fuel. BAR thought it could be with fuel. Their dry weight was 594 kilos. So even though with fuel the car was always over the minimum, it was possible for them to run underweight. Was Jensen aware of this?
I'm not going to know everything about the car, and obviously now everybody knows every detail about our car. So I know as much as everybody else. But apart from that, I don't really want to comment too much on it. A two-race ban, it's mad. You know, it's all these guys that have worked in there non-stop to build this car, and back at the factory at BAR and Honda, bringing this car here, hoping for a fantastic weekend. Suddenly we're sat here doing nothing.
And you're saying that BAR have been deliberately breaking the rules, cheating?
Effectively, yes. That's what one has to say. In our view, they knew what they were doing, they knew the advantages it would bring, and they did it notwithstanding that, and it destroys the whole basis of Formula One. We've got these people fighting for a hundredth of a second, and if you've got a device like this, it just subverts the entire competition. It destroys the basis of a competition if you do things like that.
The FIA have very nicely reduced their claim of fraud and deception, and it's now become lack of transparency, which is good. We acknowledge that. But on the other hand, the severity of the penalty still makes it look as though we're guilty, which we're not.
Nevertheless, the other teams regard BAR's interpretation of the weight rule as nonsense. Many believe it gave them an unfair advantage.
I think it's pretty clear how your car needs to be weighed, and you can't do that with fuel in it. So for me, it's pretty clear cut.
Very difficult to believe that they've done anything knowingly to get around the rules. It's clearly just an interpretation thing.
From what I've heard, I'm not really in the position because I'm only a bloody driver. But when the technical guys say what they've done, it's a very old trick.
In the sport, everything is not legal. You need to pay. And for sure they are paying for that.
It's harsh, but I think you need to set a standard to really show people they shouldn't go that route. Because if they make a lag, if they just take the points away from one race, people, everybody starts thinking, oh, we should do that.
Honda are one of the manufacturers unhappy with the way F1 is run and have threatened to establish a breakaway series. Journalist Michael Schmidt was with us in the FIA court in Paris, and he believes there's a link here.
The FIA and Max were hoping that this case against BAR Honda would bring Honda back in the FIA camp. But I think the outcome is a completely different one. Honda now will have even less trust in the FIA because they think that the judgment is far too harsh for what they did.
And one thing that Japanese hate is dishonesty. In Japanese business, we don't, sometimes we don't need a contract. We just need to shake hands. And, people like to think that Honda didn't do it intentionally.
I'm sure that the senior management at Honda had no idea this was going on. No way they would allow that to happen. Why risk the reputation of your company? This was done by the engineers at team level and kept very quiet, I'm sure, from everybody.
Jenson Button has a Williams option for next year, but what effect will this embarrassment have on his future?
Yeah, it's not going to change anything for me for the future. It's not going to damage my career, and it's not going to make me choose where I want to be for the future either. We expected to come here and have a very good chance of getting a podium and maybe a win. And Monaco, we thought we were going to... I thought we were going to destroy the opposition in Monaco, so that's why it's really disappointing for the whole team and especially me.
Tony, loads of British fans here in Barcelona. I spoke to a few of them. Their faces fell this morning, and I confirmed to them Jenson will not be racing here or in Monaco.
Well, imagine if it happened to Alonso here or if it happened to Button at Silverstone, the same effect. It is pretty devastating for the whole team, and particularly Button. The car's been going so well, Jim. Mugello is really fast. It set an unofficial lap record here in Barcelona, and all that's being squandered, really. It's a great shame, and I think the fans are being deprived.
The way he was talking there, he fancied himself for a win in Monaco, didn't he?
Well, he did. He was very, very close last year. He was superb. You remember 3 years ago he had that big smash, and last year he very nearly did it and caught truly up at the end.
What about his future? Surely surely the time is ticking now. He'll be on his way out of BAR at the end of the season, won't he?
Well, I think it's very difficult. He's waving goodbye to any chance of the World Championship now. By August, he's got to have 3/4 of the points of the leader in the championship. There's no way he's going to do that, and Williams can take up the option. So I think he's going to have a big job to try and keep this fella in BAR.
OK, Tony, thank you very much indeed. All it means as well is the result of the San Marino Grand Prix has been changed. Alexander Wirtz claiming Button's trophy. He's promoted to 3rd. Sato's points disappear as well. Villeneuve, he moves up to 4th, then Trulli. Ralf Schumacher lost his point after an unsafe pit stop, so Mark Webber scores a couple. Antonio Liuzzi, the bubbly Italian, he registered for Red Bull Racing on his F1 debut as well. Alonso on a roll, unbeaten since the start of the season in Australia. Trulli's looked really strong for Toyota. Fisichella, well, he's been struggling since that win down under. Michael Schumacher goes for a magnificent 7th win here. Heidfeld, Ralf Schumacher and Coulthard, and then Webber, Barrichello and Montoya. But it is Alonso who's got the Spanish hearts pumping. He is on course to become the youngest F1 champion ever. His fans have the cross of victory on their flags. They say their Fernando is faster than the speed of light, and the king, Juan Carlos, he is a huge fan as well.
Spain has fallen in love with Formula One, and it's all thanks to Fernando Alonso. He's a pint-sized pin-up with a massive talent, and that's made him a hero to his countrymen.
To be like a hero for them is a surprise, because, you know, I'm not coming from a rich family or anyone, so I feel like them. And I'm very surprised when I see them, when they see me.
Fernando drove a go-kart for the first time aged just 3. It was the start of his journey on the road to success. Alonso's Formula One career began with a maiden season at Minardi before testing and then racing with Renault. He hit the wall in 2003 at Interlagos and then hit the headlines as he overtook the world champion to become Formula One's youngest ever race winner. Thus began the start of the Spaniard's reputation as a top dog in F1.
The problem is that in Spain no one understood Formula One, so they never liked it very much. But now that Alonso is pulling the spectators, the people understand.
40,000 people from his own town. They come in here with buses, with 500 buses, taxis, cars. The whole place is just gone bananas.
Alonso's hometown, Oviedo, has become a mass of crazed fans who watch every race in the local cinema. His triumphs evoke enormous emotions, something Fernando thrives on.
Alonso, I love you! I love you,
Alonso! When you are not in the car, you're still thinking in the next race, in the next championship, in the next test, to keep the motivation for the fans and for all the people high.
He attacks every corner with the aggression of a raging bull, and his emotion in and out of the cockpit is mirrored by his beloved fans. Fernando Alonso's the only Spaniard to have won a Grand Prix. Today he could make it 4 in a row.
Well, we've come across another Spanish sporting icon. Carlos, what must it be like for Fernando to be adored like this?
I'm sure he's really 100% committed now, really looking for the race, and I'm sure he will be very, very happy to be leading the championship and really having a chance this year of winning.
Has he made Formula One more popular than World Rally used to be or bikes used to be?
Well, for sure, at the period when I was winning the championship, rally became very popular, then motorcycle became very, very popular, and now Formula One, finally we have a very good driver leading the championship. It has become very popular as well. More or less, each thing is different, each time is different, but here I think you can see it's a great thing for Spain here today.
Thanks, Carlos.
You know, Oviedo, Alonso's hometown, 700 miles from here. 200,000 the population. I reckon they've got the signs outside, town closed today.
They're all here, aren't they? There's no question. But this is a big dream for Fernando Alonso. He didn't think he'd make it more than being a go-kart mechanic. And he said, if I can just stand on the podium at the end of the day, it'd be like his team Real Madrid beating Barcelona 10-0. But he's also, they've built a culture here. De La Rosa has helped start that, Genet, and now this man's transformed the place. Unbelievable that Formula One is so popular. popular. We used to come here, there were about 10,000 people.
I'm so impressed with his character, so calm. He just seems to take everything in his stride. Very rarely see him ruffled, do you?
Well, he says all the pressure was on him when he was karting and he had to be world karting champion. He said, I've proved how good I am. He's gone past that stage, and I think Carlos Sainz is right there. He will just be focusing now on the race.
And watch for him at the start as well.
Yeah, because they've got new software in the Renault, they've got the revised engine, so he's going to go off like a scolded rabbit again.
Thank you, Tony. Let's take a look at the champions, Ferrari. So far, they have had another torrid weekend. Rubens Barrichello's had to change an engine. That means he's down the back. And Michael Schumacher, unbeaten here this century, will have to go some to maintain that record. That Alonso takes some overtaking.
The last lap of the San Marino Grand Prix. It's been an absolutely thrilling conclusion.
Alonso's car's painfully slow in Ravazza 1. It's going to leave him exposed into the final chicane.
He locks the breakdown. Amazing defensive driving by Fernando Alonso. One of the closest finishes I can remember for many, many years.
Fernando Alonso may have taken the spoils in San Marino, but the unbelievable pace of Michael Schumacher's Ferrari was the story of the day. It also reopened the debate about Ferrari's refusal to sign up to the same testing restrictions as all their competitors.
9 teams agree to have a limit days of testing and one not. It's not in the rules, they can do what they want, but I think for all the people it's not fair.
If the other teams think they want to have an agreement, then that's their choice, but Ferrari never entered this agreement, and that's it. There is 3 teams that run Bridgestone tyres, and there's 7 teams that run Michelin tyres. And if you can count the kilometers the Bridgestone tyre companies do, I think we do far less.
Would Schumacher's Bridgestone-shod Ferrari have the same speed advantage here in Spain? That was the big question, and the answer was no. 7th on Saturday, he slipped down to 8th in final qualifying.
We simply have to face the situation. For one lap, we are not strong enough. We are, in my view, more competitive on the race pace.
Tactically timed pit stops helped his climb from 13th to 2nd in San Marino, and Michael will need help from the pit wall to overtake here.
Yeah, it's basically as impossible as it is in Imola, honestly. Unless somebody makes a mistake, you just get stuck behind.
Rubens Barrichello's going to have to find his way past a few cars. After suffering an unscheduled engine change yesterday, he starts 17th with a heavy fuel load.
It was very disappointing to hear that I had to change my engine, so it was that's the sad point. As always, I keep on a high and see what I can do.
But race pace has been Ferrari's forte, and all eyes will be on the red cars to see if it's Imola all over again.
Well, we're down here at the door garage now with team boss Alex Schneider. You haven't been to a Grand Prix since Australia. Are you happy with the progress that the team's making? Just asking if you're happy with the progress that your team is making, generally speaking.
Of course, we have to still to improve. I mean, we're improving in steady strides, but there's still a lot to do.
What about the drivers? Do you think they're doing a good job for you?
I think so, yes. They're learning, they're rookies, they're learning, and I think that they are, I'm surprised by their performance.
I understand that you're looking at introducing quite a heavily revised car at Silverstone. Are you going to make any other changes this season, or is it really a holding year before the big impact in 2006?
We are going to introduce a new car. We are now working in 2 wind tunnels full-time in our wind tunnel in Berkeley and with the Lara. And we're developing a car for 2006. We're going to have a car introduced, you're right, later on in the season. And we are constantly improving to get ready for 2006.
Thanks for talking to us. Enjoy your day.
Indeed, Jim, and Kimi Räikkönen has just left the garage. Ron, are you going to tell me that McLaren want to spoil all these nice people's day?
Well, we're going to do our very best, that's for sure. If we can't have a sea of silver up there, we'll have it on the finish line, we hope.
Just outline the improvements to the car that has enabled Kimi to have this pace this weekend.
We always have constant development. In Australia, everything that's on the car now was planned to be introduced here. We managed to bring some of it to Imola, which helped our qualifying pace. And now we've got an increased race pace, which comes from improved engine, improved aerodynamics, new front suspension. So it's going well.
OK, well, we look forward to hearing your pearls of wisdom during the race, and have a good one.
Well, hopefully it's all positive news we could do with a race win.
A couple of weeks' time. There is the man, Fernando Alonso. Massive reception for him. Start of the race just over 20 minutes away. When you rejoin us, Martin will be rubbing shoulders, you'll hope to, with royalty on his grid walk, and he'll be heading Alonso's way as well.
Doing a very, very solid job. It's interesting that Pat Simmons, the technical boss at Renault, has defended him, saying, listen, he's driving as well as ever. These last 3 failures were not his fault.
The Renault philosophy, though, it was points in 2003, podiums in 2004, and now, well, only a win will do here in Spain, won't it?
I think that's pretty right. They're doing much better than they thought they would be at this stage of the 4 wins. It's unbelievable.
Atmosphere here in Barcelona, Formula One fever, Spanish style. 115,000 people crammed into this wonderful stadium. We've got a sky of blue and a sea of blue shirts and caps in the grandstands. Welcome to Alonso country. Well, the 23-year-old has set Spanish hearts racing this year by winning 3 straight races, and he comes here as the first Spaniard ever to lead the World Championship. And what a lead. 29 points over Kimi Raikkonen and 26 points over Michael Schumacher. But Raikkonen is the great threat today. The 25-year-old Finn grabbed his 2nd consecutive pole this morning, and surely he can't have a repeat of the shocking luck which robbed him of victory in Imola a fortnight ago. Well, McLaren has an updated car here, more powerful engine, better aerodynamics, and let me tell you, it's really, really quick. But is it reliable? Well, Imola was the only blot on their reliability landscape so far, but the big question mark for Raikkonen, he does need the big 10 points here this afternoon. His teammate, Juan Pablo Montoya, is back too, after 5 weeks on the sidelines with a broken shoulder, not helped by a 140-mile-an-hour accident on Friday in free practice, but he says he's okay. Well, today will certainly be a serious physical test for him. He looks strong at the moment, and crucially, he's qualified in front of Michael Schumacher. They start together on row 4. Montoya 7th, Michael Schumacher 8th on the grid. I believe they have a similar race strategy, and that will certainly be for a fantastic battle between those two, who've had plenty of good battles before in their time. There you can see the grid. Webber there, I suppose, the standout in qualifying. Tremendous effort to get that Williams up onto the front row of the grid. He had all sorts of engine dramas, meant he didn't run at all on Friday, so what a recovery for Mark Webber. Alonso, the danger man. Renault have done a lot of work on their starts, and they now believe they're as good in this system as they were in the old days of launch control. So watch out for Alonso diving up the inside of Webber into the first corner. If those of you remember last year, Trulli in 4th place in the Renault was leading the first lap. So we do get a long run down here to the first corner, and some interesting things can happen at the start. Ferrari, well, they haven't really looked themselves all weekend. Certainly not the sort of pace we saw at Imola 2 weeks ago. Their race pace is a little bit hard to predict. Everybody seems to be writing them off, but you can never really write off Ferrari when it comes to the Grand Prix itself. So we will see a podium for Schumacher today, quite possible. Barrichello, the teammate, right down the back of the grid. He has to have an engine change, as does Nick Heidfeld in the BMW Williams. And just look at this amazing banner. Barcelona, the sworn enemy of Madrid in just about every aspect of Spanish life, backing their rival for the 2012 Olympics. But I think London and Paris will have a thing or two to say about that. Well, the other standout story, as Martin alluded to on the grid, is the absence of Jenson Button and the BAR Honda team. And some big words been flying around this weekend. Cheating, for example, is a very, very big word in sport. And certainly BAR Honda have been banned for 2 races for a system in the fuel and a weight at the end of the Imola Grand Prix, which did not conform to the regulations. We've heard about the court case from Ted Kravitz. We've heard all about it from the weekend. The net result is we've only got 18 cars on the grid, and BAR Honda will not race here or in Monaco. 2 Grand Prix that they felt they had a great, great chance of winning. But we do have 18 cars. We've got at least 4 of them competitive for the race victory today. It's wide open. It's a fiesta Spanish style, isn't it, Martin?
It would still be race 17 out of 19 before Michael took the World Championship. Such is the way the point scoring works. So it's going to rely on unreliability or driver error or tripping over somebody for Fernando Alonso to allow, I think, certainly Michael Schumacher. Schumacher and, for me, Kimi Raikkonen are the 2 men that have got the equipment and the wherewithal to go and take the fight to Fernando Alonso.
And the will as well. Certainly the Constructors' Championship today, just saw the McLaren there, 4 points behind Toyota. Good chance for them to move up into second place in the championship, although both Toyotas are strongly running at the moment. 4th and 5th on the grid. Ralf Schumacher, for the first time this season, out-qualifying his teammate, Jarno Trulli. Good effort from Ralf over the 2 qualifying sessions. And the car certainly seems hooked up on the Friday practice. Both Toyotas lapping very strongly in the low 1:17s on long runs. Laps in the mid to high 1:17s from the other front runners. So they're on the pace, Toyota.
It surprised me, just the few drivers I've tripped over this morning. I've asked them all about tyre wear. They've all, yeah, it's a problem, it's an issue, but they're all Michelin drivers, actually, that I've talked to. Didn't get to either the 2 Ferrari drivers who are on the harder Bridgestone. So we could well see, I think, a swap over of form in the later stages of this Grand Prix.
Well, Pat Simmons of Renault, the engineering director, said you probably see a bigger disparity between the way the different cars use their tyres here today than we've seen all season. Those of you who've been following it all on F1 ITV with us will know that that's saying something, because some of the hot races like Malaysia and Bahrain, we saw a big difference in the way the cars use their tyres. So it's an awful lot of interesting factors going into this Grand Prix, in addition to the wide open competitiveness at the front.
What they're doing now is switching off the traction control to spin up the wheels, get some surface temperature into the rear tyres to minimise the wheel spin, and use of traction control to get the drive off the line that they need. And there's a Sauber that is crossways. He turned too late into his box.
Yeah, strange position. When the lights go off, we'll be racing 66 laps at Barcelona. Begin now. Great start for Raikkonen, and Alonso has passed Webber. He's got him on the run down to turn 1. Someone's gone on the grass. There's a lot of action there. One of the Toyotas, I believe, was involved in that. Look at Fisichella coming down the inside. Webber has been bumped down into 3rd place by one of the 2 Renaults. Raikkonen leads then. Alonso up into 2nd. We've got a Minardi stalled on the start line, and Webber, as we feared, has dropped down into 4th place off the start line.
And that's bad news where that Minardi is stalled. It's on the exit of the fast corner, albeit on the inside of the racetrack. 3 or 4 cars at the back of the grid didn't get away properly, and one, of course, then didn't get away at all. And understandably, they have deployed the safety car, the double waved yellows. In fact, there were at least 2 cars then that didn't get away, and the clutch mechanism that the marshals should have easily to hand to push is not functioning on one of the Minardis.
It's both the Minardis that have stalled on the grid. The 2 cars are being pushed off the grid, so they got about as far as the start-finish line, the 2 brand new Minardis, before their race was run. Christian Albers and Patrick Friesacker. What frustration for Minardi team. You come all this way, you put all the practice laps in, you serve countless bowls of pasta to your sponsor guests, and you go 60 yards.
Now, Paul Stoddart not here this weekend to see this unfolding. He'll be on the phone in a hurry. So 1 car parked out on racetrack, but the cars will now be there 2 corners away from appearing on the pit straight behind the safety car. And this idea of bringing the safety car much further upstream so it picks up the drivers before they get to the danger zone at the start is very good and very clever.
Well, this will push the pit stops back a little bit. Another look at the start. You can see the Minardis at the back not moving. Watch out for Alonso on your right, behind Raikkonen. And you can see it was Montoya that went up onto the grass. There's the 2 Minardis going nowhere, but you see that dust and flying through the air. It's Montoya. Watch out for him. You see them Sauber out of position.
I wouldn't be surprised if Villeneuve, there's a Jordan Toyota in the back as well, got away, so I wouldn't be at all surprised if Villeneuve was out of position on the start and may get penalised for that. He turned too late. They stand on the left-hand side, the cleaner side, to keep their tyres as clean as possible, as long as possible, and he turned too late across to the right-hand side. If you think a London taxi's got a good turning lock, well, these are exactly the opposite. They're terrible for any kind of steering lock on a Formula 1 car because of the steering geometry in the fat front tyres.
Well, the safety car will come in at the end of this lap. We'll be green flag racing, just 1 lap down then under the safety car. The order: Raikkonen, Alonso, Ralf Schumacher 3rd, Webber down to 4th, Trulli 5th, 6th is Fisichella, 7th Michael Schumacher got in front of Montoya. That's absolutely crucial for the story of this Grand Prix, and for Michael's story particularly. Montoya will be desperately trying to get him back off the restart. Coulthard is 9th, Massa 10th, Villeneuve 11th. And here it is on board with Alonso. No problem at all out dragging that BMW Williams down to the start line. Once again, Williams very poor off the start.
It's all about electronics and the clutch mechanism, how the clutch comes in and bites, and weight distribution of the car, the aero, because as soon as you're up to, say, 50 miles an hour, 80 kilometres per hour, the aero is having quite a dramatic effect already, even in those early stages of the acceleration zone down to turn 1. And all of those factors come together, and there Heidfeld and Rubens at the back very neatly threading their way through the non-starters.
That was amazing. Heidfeld, inches to spare from hitting the back of that Minardi. So Raikkonen bunches them up. It's up to him when he drops the gas to get this race started again. The safety car will have pulled out in front and come into the pit lane coming off turn 13. They're trying to get these two Minardis going again, trying to get them into the race. But we should concentrate on the restart because it's imminent. The safety car, I can see, is coming down into the pit lane now. Raikkonen starts to pick up the pace out of 12 and up the hill down towards 13. The two Minardis trying to get themselves going as Kimi Raikkonen exits the final turn, and he's built himself a pretty healthy lead already with a very cunning restart. Alonso caught napping a little bit there, and Raikkonen leads.
Absolutely, Alonso was not ready at all for that. Kimi Raikkonen had 10 car lengths on him, 2 corners from the end of the lap. As soon as the safety car pulls up, look, we've got a pass going on at the back. Montoya and Michael Schumacher, and Montoya makes his way up to P7. He got a run out of the final corner on the Ferrari of Schumacher. Coulthard now homing in on Michael Schumacher.
I said that was going to be absolutely vital for Montoya to get Schumacher back off the restart. We've seen before the Bridgestone tyres, when they cool down a little bit behind the safety car, they don't have that bite on the restart that the Michelins have, and once again Montoya has used that to tremendous advantage. We're going to keep an eye on that scrap because it's the battle for 7th, but it's going to be a big story in this Grand Prix.
As ever, Montoya, who spent so long in America making best use of these safety car periods, yellow flag situations. But as as you say, James, it's absolutely right. The Bridgestones are taking much longer to come up to temperature. That's really hurting them.
Well, we saw Barrichello and Heidfeld at the back of the field, and off the restart I can tell you that Heidfeld has managed to get himself up into 12th place. Barrichello is down in 14th, stuck behind Liuzzi at the moment, so he's struggling to make some progress. Nick Heidfeld's making great progress, though. To watch out for him over the course of the Grand Prix. He's behind Villeneuve at the moment, and that's an interesting scrap as well. Look at the lead, though, that the front two have got. Raikkonen at the end of lap 3, 2 seconds clear of Alonso, then another 2 seconds back as Ralf Schumacher. Webber is right with Ralf Schumacher, Trulli's right with him. There you can see Jarno Trulli with Fisichella close up behind him as well. The man who replaced him in the Renault team took that famous victory at Melbourne at the start of the season. Montoya is just a second shy of the Renault in 7th, and Michael Schumacher a second and a half behind Montoya on that lap alone.
Yeah, Raikkonen is flying at the front, though, absolutely flying. He's got confidence, speed. We've seen, I just don't know how McLaren haven't won more races this year in terms of they've got the speed. They've just been tripping over each other a bit, unreliability, but is that car good? And we know that it's the best car out there for looking after its tyres through a Grand Prix too. Ted has some news.
Yeah, down at Minardi, it was a programming problem in the software of the master control unit for both cars.
Thank you for that, Ted. Well, the track temperature here now 44 degrees, the air temperature 24. It's hot at Barcelona, and certainly at the moment the Michelin seem to be enjoying that. Kimi Raikkonen's pace is similar to the pace at in the early stages of last year's Grand Prix, and if you bear in mind all the changes that they've made this year, 1 set of tyres for qualifying and the race, 2 race engines, lots of aerodynamics taken off the cars, as much as 20% in the initial phases. It's absolutely staggering that these cars are going faster now as Raikkonen bangs in a 17.6. They're going faster now than they were at this stage of the race last year.
Yeah, that's stunning pace. The track's in good nick, isn't it? And, that's Michael Schumacher, David Coulthard, Felipe Massa, 8, 9 and 10. Massa's 12 seconds off the lead, and they're on lap 5. All of those safety car laps count towards the Grand Prix distance. There'll be some feverish recalculations going on because the cars use less than half as much fuel on a safety car lap as they do when they're on a hot lap.
Well, let's just talk about the race strategy, shall we? Certainly the last few years it's been a 3-stop race, but with no advantage to putting on a set of new tyres, because you don't get any in the pit stop now. They stretch them out to probably a 2-stopper for most people. And certainly the word in the paddock was that Raikkonen, possibly Alonso, pitting around about lap 23 of this Grand Prix. Montoya and Michael Schumacher a little bit later, around about lap 28. At the moment, Raikkonen, though, scorching away from Alonso. Ralf Schumacher 3rd, Webber 4th, Trulli 5th, and Fisichella in 6th. 7 laps gone out of the 66 here in Barcelona. Kimi Raikkonen is pulling away slowly from Fernando Alonso. Alonso's trying very, very hard to respond, though. He's the only other man lapping in the 1:17s, but Raikkonen's pace is absolutely mesmerising as Montoya, who was pulling away from Michael Schumacher in 7th place, has a full 360, gathers it up. It's turn 8, and I wonder whether Michael got past him. The computer says he didn't, but it's showing 1:22.7, and Michael Schumacher a 1:19.8, so the gap is now down to nothing, and Montoya, he got away with it.
He did get away with it, and just behind Michael Schumacher, David Coulthard, Felipe Massa, a lot of them are less than 2 seconds adrift of Montoya now, so that cost him dearly this afternoon. I think he's got a good amount of fuel on, as I'm sure has Raikkonen and Alonso. Raikkonen has done a new circuit lap record on lap 6 of a 1:17.196. Stunning pace at the front of the field.
He's on for an even better one here. He might crack into the 16s on this lap. It's all purple sectors on the computer here for Kimi Raikkonen. He is driving the race of his life, pulling away, trying to open out a gap in the way that Alonso has done. 1:9.62 for Kimi Raikkonen. Alonso tries desperately to respond. He's bringing his lap times down by the same kind of increments, but they started higher. 1:17.5 for Alonso, and he can't respond.
Yeah, and it's interesting to me that Kimi feels the need to keep pumping them in. He's on an even faster first sector now, so he's scampering down the road. Does he think he's got less fuel than the Renault? Ted, what do you know?
Well, I don't know about that. I'm down at McLaren. Norbert Haug absolutely furious at Juan Pablo Montoya. They haven't been too happy with him on his Grand Prix, especially.
What will be the 3rd lap on the Minardi, because of course it didn't get off the start line. Neither Minardi got away and had to be fired up in the pits.
Yeah, one of the McLaren people who shall definitely remain nameless said the other day, it's not going very well for Juan Pablo with us yet, is it? I'll say that again. 5 weeks on the sideline with a broken shoulder, 2 races missed, both of which is the people replacing him out-qualified the best that Montoya had done up to that point. Here this weekend, 140-mile-an-hour crash. Mechanics working till 3 a.m. to fix the car on Friday night. And, well, he's certainly keeping Michael Schumacher behind him, but it's spirited stuff keeping that car going. There is Montoya, and there is Michael Schumacher with David Coulthard breathing down his neck in 9th place, and Felipe Massa in the Sauber trying to keep Coulthard honest. Interesting battle, Martin, between Red Bull Racing and Sauber today to pick up some points. Everybody aware that with BAR Honda not here this weekend, for those midfield teams, a great chance to pick up a few more points.
Yeah, some cheaper points to be had this weekend. Coulthard's changed his chassis and he seems much happier, back on the pace again now that he showed in the first 2 Grand Prix. And, well, he's used to chasing down Michael Schumacher, but it hasn't always been for 8th and 9th in the past, as when he was at McLaren. Michael must have on board, but his pace is such that he's now 24 seconds away and falling dramatically. He's doing 1:19.6 and Raikkonen's doing the 1:16.9.
That's not fuel.
Nowhere.
That's not fuel. Even if there was a lot more fuel, it's not fuel. Unfortunately, if you look at what the other Bridgestone runners are doing, the Jordans and the Minardis, it tells you the story. Carter Cayen lapping in the low 21s, Montero low 20s, and the 2 Minardis in the 21s as well. I don't think those Bridgestones are enjoying this Spanish Grand Prix 2005 very much.
Liuzzi.
Oh, Liuzzi off.
He's not had a stellar weekend, has he? And the boy's very good. I think they expected him to be night and day ahead of Klein, but Klein raised his game this year, no doubt about it. And that is that tricky little, what I've numbered as turn 11. That's caught a few people out in various formulas this weekend.
Yeah, difficult corner. Christian Klein hoping to be back in the car at the Nürburgring. Red Bull Racing having the second driver alternating every 3 Grand Prix. If you remember, Klein had a cracking start to the season. First 3 races scoring points, and Liuzzi, well, he grabbed a point after the BARs were disqualified from Imola, but it's not gone well this weekend, as Martin was saying, and I think he put that one down to youthful exuberance. Here's your race leader, Kimi Raikkonen, lap 11 of 66, and once again he is on his way to a new fastest lap. This is going to be something in the mid 1:16s, which I tell you is a second faster than the similar pace of the pace we had at this stage of the Grand Prix last year. That's extraordinary that the cars have been made slower, and yet here we are 5 races in, and this race is the race time is going to be much faster than last year's.
A 16.5. At 1:16.5. Alonso comes over in a 1:17.6. The gap up to 7.7 seconds. Raikkonen is flying. If he pits at any time near Alonso or the other key runners, he's got this race comfortably in the bag. And that's stunning pace, but he's pushing the car so hard. He's already faster yet again in the first sector on this current lap, which is lap 12.
Yeah, no, Trulli is the interesting one. His race pace is always worth watching. When the Toyota's going well, he can run with the front runners no problem, as we saw in Malaysia, for example, and Bahrain. Tremendous performances. Sometimes when it's not going so well, as in Imola, you remember he had a queue of cars behind him, and I think we might be getting into a scenario a bit like that fairly soon. He's in 5th place with Fisichella and Montoya behind him, but interesting to keep an eye on that situation.
Remember, in qualifying, we suspected Mark Webber may have a bit less fuel on board to get himself a better grid slot, which didn't pay off away from the start line, sadly. But if he's got to stop maybe one more time than the Toyota in front of him, Ralf Schumacher, this is really hurting his race. It's absolutely destroyed his strategy, if we're right.
Well, Rubens Barrichello will have been one of the few people happy to see Liuzzi spinning off the racetrack, because it meant that he could pick the pace up. He's now close behind Nick Heidfeld. Those two who started from the back, having taken engine changes in the Ferrari and the Williams respectively, trying to pick their way through the field, and they are now right up behind Jacques Villeneuve in the Sauber, who's not had a tremendous weekend here. It's been a difficult time for Villeneuve. On board with Webber then in 4th place, just 7/10 behind Ralf Schumacher in front. They had quite a spirited battle in Malaysia, didn't they? Hopefully we're about to get one joined here in Barcelona as well. This is lap 13. Lap 15 of 66 here in Barcelona. We ride on board with Mark Webber. He's in 4th place, and he's closing down on Ralf Schumacher, who in turn is closing down on Fernando Alonso in 2nd place. But at the front, Kimi Raikkonen is once again on target to set a new fastest lap. He's already deep into the 1:16s and pulling away from Alonso. The pace of this McLaren is absolutely mesmerising at this stage of the Grand Prix.
Well, later on, that's up at turn 4. Turn 3, I think, actually. Somebody's gone off the road quite heavily, probably made it, and that's Friesacke in the Minardi. So that's pretty much completing a dismal afternoon for them. And that time around, Raikkonen increases lead by 2 seconds. Wonder where Alonso lost that time and why. He's really been going quite slowly this last 2 or 3 laps, Alonso. So I wonder if there's a little gremlin creeping in there somewhere. Ralf Schumacher now down to just 2.2 seconds behind him in 3rd place. And Louise has very quickly found Antonio Liuzzi.
Yeah, Antonio Liuzzi, who has a very disappointed face, which probably tells the story.
Yes, we had a problem since the beginning, from the start. We couldn't move up from the grid properly, and after the car in the first 4 or 5 laps was sliding all over the place. There was something wrong, but at the end in corner 7, I was pushing because I was trying to catch Heidfeld, and just the rear locks, and we went out.
Thanks, Tonio.
Well, Alonso trying to respond now. He obviously had a poor lap. We didn't see why. It could well have been lap traffic. Albers and Friesacke have both been lapped, and it could well have been that, but whatever it was, certainly Alonso now is picking the pace up again. He's trying to keep the gap to Ralf Schumacher well above 2 seconds if he can. Looking down there, you can see just touching something on his steering wheel, making a small adjustment. So much that they can control from the steering wheel of these cars now, isn't there?
It is indeed. Webber's just done his fastest lap of the race. He's still hustling Ralf Schumacher, and well, he's only 8/10 behind, but when we go on board with Webber, we'll see it's just a little dot on the horizon. That's how far a Formula 1 car travels in 0.8 of a second. We'll pick that up next time we're on board with him. But Alonso looking slightly tentative at the wheel, you'd have to say.
Yeah, definitely. It's an interesting position that he finds himself in, trying to answer the needs of 115,000 of his fellow countrymen. This is pretty new territory for the Spaniards, let's not forget. They've been here before for years in bike racing. Well, on 4 wheels, they've never had a front-running Formula 1 star, and it reminds me of when Schumacher came along in the early 90s and how that transformed Germans' appreciation of the sport. And you can see a lovely super slow-mo of that swoopy, sculpty bodywork of the Renault. So signs that perhaps Germany's appreciation of the sport slightly on the wane. The crowd's not been quite so good at Nürburgring and Hockenheim recently, but tell you what, there's a real passion for Formula 1 here in Barcelona, and the grandstand's full of these beautiful blue flags. By coincidence, the blue of the Renault team is also the same blue of the local flag of Alonso's region, Asturias. And you see the flags with the crosses on them, the blue flag with the yellow cross. What a coincidence that it should be the same as the corporate colours of Renault. They're loving it because they've never sold so many shirts as they have this weekend.
Raikkonen's just done it again, another new lap record, a 1:16.1. Alonso's response, a 1:18.0. The gap now 15.4 seconds. Alonso's very inconsistent. We haven't seen him off the road or locking wheels. In fact, we've seen plenty of him, but each time it's been in a slow-mo, and he appears to be on the right bits of the racetrack. But Alonso dramatically falling behind and into the clutches of Ralf Schumacher in third place.
It's not as if he's sort of pacing himself, is it? As you say, the lap time's sometimes good, sometimes not so good. If he was thinking, well, I'll settle for second here and just keep Ralf behind me, it's a bit early in the race to be saying that. One interesting thing though, Martin, is the pace of Montoya. He is now in clear air. He's got Michael Schumacher behind him, and in clear air, as Raikkonen is, he's lapping almost, well, 1.5, 2 seconds a lap slower than his teammate. Extraordinary. I wonder if how much of that is that shoulder injury that he's still carrying. Into the pits comes the first pitter, and that is Mark Webber, as we suspected then, carrying a little bit less fuel. Now he has the option of stopping 3 times in this race, coming in this early in the Grand Prix. Let's see how much fuel goes in. Anything under 7.5 means he's stopping 3 times. Seems strange not to change the tyres. Still can't get used to that. No, this is a 2-stopper. Off he goes.
I suspect they've changed that strategy then, James, but obviously a bad start disadvantages him behind Ralf. They've had to put some more fuel in and change their concept of how to run the afternoon. Whether
compared to the tyres going off, then he found they eventually got better. But let's look out for the first pit stops, see if he makes a tyre pressure adjustment on the rear tyres.
Well, if Raikkonen were to stop now, he would feed in between, just in front of Juan Montoya in 7th place. So that would be interesting. Obviously, there's a bit of a way to go, hopefully, for Kimi Raikkonen before his first stop.
Let's give Raikkonen another 5 laps. He's got a pit stop in his pocket anyway, a spare pit stop in terms of time. And he's still pumping in fastest sectors, so he just doesn't want to give up. Obviously, it's easy for him. He's not locking wheels and sliding all over the place, making mistakes. He's not on the ragged edge. Clearly, he is absolutely feeling good about that car. And this racetrack, because corners very much lead one to another, if the car's underneath you, you just build up. It compounds like a snowball all around the lap, and that's such a disparity in lap times. If your car's not working, you just can't manhandle it through these 150-mile-an-hour corners.
Well, he's only won 2 races in his career. It seems extraordinary, Kimi Raikkonen, to be into that position, but it's won a year in 03 and 04. Desperate to get one on the board in 05 and make that not a single for the year, but the first of many. We're riding on board with Ralf Schumacher, and that is Fernando Alonso in front. Just 0.4 of a second behind then. Alonso lapping a slower car. Will Ralf get him before the first corner? Yes, he will. It's one of the Minardis who've been lapped a few times here this afternoon. But look how much closer Ralf Schumacher is. That engine screaming up to 18.5, nearly 19,000 RPM, 140 miles an hour around the long, long right-hander of turn 3. He's closing him down. Look, Alonso doesn't look comfortable.
Well, if you look at Alonso's lap times in clear air, he is about 10th fastest man on the racetrack at the moment. That's how much slower he's going. Raikkonen leads by 20 seconds, having just set another new lap record of 1:16.0. He's gone. He's in a league of his own whenever he stops for fuel. But it's Alonso now, and Ralf Schumacher smelling a bit of a solid result here, isn't he, in that 3rd place Toyota?
Yep, Toyota have had a couple of podiums this year with Jarno Trulli already, but Ralf has yet to take that step. So that would be a special moment for him, and he definitely can see a wounded animal in front of him. I wonder what the problem is for Alonso. He talked rather cryptically yesterday of a small problem in free practice, didn't want to elaborate on what it was, said it was nothing to do with the engine. But that's interesting. After qualifying yesterday, he was very evasive on the subject. I wonder if that little problem has reared its ugly head again. Just a look in the mirror there for Alonso. Sure sign he's feeling defensive.
Ralph's got the better front end, stronger on the brakes. He can carry more speed into the apex. Alonso always sets his car up with what I think is undrivable amounts of understeer, but it clearly works nicely for him. A slow-mo then of Ralf Schumacher in the Toyota, but we need to be back on the action, please, because Schumacher, although there's nowhere to pass at the back of the circuit much, there's nowhere to pass much at all here, unfortunately, because of the high speeds and the relatively small braking zones. To gain 5 or 6 meters on your competitor around here under braking is very hard to do.
Well, Alonso soaked up 12 laps of immense pressure from Michael Schumacher in the closing stages at Imola. He's now got his younger brother Ralph behind him, again putting pressure on him. You can see from the cockpit Alonso's adjusting things all the time in this car. He's one of the most intelligent drivers in Formula One, one of the calmest drivers as well, but he's going to need all of those skills up his sleeve, because not only is Ralph catching him, but Jarno Trulli is catching him as well in the second Toyota.
Tell you who the second fastest man on the track is, and he's in 7th place, and he drives a red Ferrari. Michael Schumacher has now begun to find some pace. It's a bit reminiscent, isn't it, of 2 weeks ago in Imola. But this time he's 41 seconds adrift of Raikkonen. But Michael Schumacher now beginning to feel the car.
Yeah, but it's not as if he's been tucked up behind a slower car like he was in Imola. He was being held up in 13th place. Here he's been in relatively clear air. He hasn't been able to close down Montoya, who's kept a margin of about 3 or 4 seconds over him. 6th and 7th they are at the moment, so it's not like Schumacher's pace is mesmerising. That Montoya slightly faster on that lap as well. Raikkonen still a good second a lap for in the same car. Fisichella, interestingly, in the second Renault in 5th place, is lapping 6 or 7 tenths of a second faster, almost a second faster, in fact, on that last lap than Alonso. So very interesting teammate comparisons here.
Alonso's struggling, and he's reversing Ralf Schumacher back into his teammate Jarno Trulli. Trulli won't get too much further, I would imagine, as soon as he gets into turbulent air that's cascading off the back of that red and white Toyota. But Alonso will be backing. Who else will join them? Fisichella could join that squabble soon too, with, as you say, lapping best part of a second a lap faster than Alonso. Montoya repairing some of the damage from his quick spin. He only lost 4 seconds, actually, Montoya, in that spin. And but he's 10 seconds behind Fisichella. He's nothing like the pace of his teammate.
Yeah, Fisichella, about 3 laps will join the tail of this, but I wonder whether we might not have a few pit stops before that, because this is lap 24. And although they saved a little bit of fuel behind the safety car at the beginning of the Grand Prix, we must be getting quite close now, I would have thought, to the first round of fuel stops for these front runners. Raikkonen leads then, Alonso second, 24 seconds behind him. Ralf Schumacher, you can see there, is just 7 tenths behind. Trulli 7 tenths behind Ralf Schumacher. 3 seconds behind them is Fisichella, with Montoya a further 10 seconds back. And then Michael Schumacher is 3 seconds behind Montoya in 7th place. Coulthard 8th and on for a point at the moment in the Red Bull Racing. 9th Massa, and 10th is Webber, but he has made a pit stop.
Alonso compromised on the exit of Kampsa, lapping the Jordan, but Ralf Schumacher not close enough to be able to punish him for, well, not for a mistake, just happening to catch the Jordan in that difficult blind corner. But onto the pit straight. The problem is, with this last corner, it's so fast, you're always going to slip back, and in the pits then. So second man to blink this afternoon is Ralf Schumacher in the Toyota. We've already had Mark Webber in for Williams.
Yeah, but Mark was in 6 laps ago. They'll be disappointed by their pace in qualifying. If you consider that these guys have all carried 6 laps more fuel than him, which is about 18 more kilos. So Williams not looking that fantastic, really, despite getting the front row quality slot for Webber. Long stop then for Toyota, plenty of fuel going in. McLaren mechanics ready for one of their 2 drivers.
I never used to read that pit board. I don't know why. You just don't even look at it, or you know it's there. You know what it's. You know what you've got to do, but it's sort of spelled out for you in very simple terms. But you don't actually sit there and go, "All right, okay, brake, and right, I better put a gear in." Then I don't know why it's on there really.
Well, Ralf Schumacher feeds in behind Massa as the race leader Kimi Raikkonen comes into the pits in the McLaren Mercedes. What a brilliant opening stint for him. 26.5 seconds of margin he's opened up, and that should just about get him back out in front of Alonso. This will be interesting. Alonso, of course, still having to make his stop, as does Trulli. No tyre pressure adjustments here. Remember how that tyre deflated for him earlier in the season when they played around with the pressures?
Oh, blue smoke coming out of the back of that. It's been on idle, so sometimes you do get a bit of build-up of crankcase pressure or whatever. But Kimi definitely with a little bit of blue engine smoke, as Jarno Trulli also pits from 4th place. And that'll be a little bit alarming for people whenever an engine is burning oil like that. It's concerning, but it was on tick over in the pits. Mind you, tick over on these, sorry James, tick over on these about 5,000 revs.
We've got a little bit of a flame there at the back of the Toyota. I hope that's just a bit of over rev. Looked to me like Raikkonen did rejoin in front of Alonso from the very wide camera shot we had there. So that has actually come out then to be the case. That's Trulli, and someone got a little barbecue on the way out of the pits. Hopefully that car will be okay. That's an unusual sight in a pit stop, I have to say.
Yeah, and this is Raikkonen leading Alonso then, but having just stopped. So that's the measure of his performance in the first part of this Grand Prix. They're on lap 26, and Alonso will only now be thinking of second place, 8 points. He knows unless there's a problem with Raikkonen, he doesn't have a prayer of catching that thing.
Absolutely right. Fisichella's interesting. He's up into third place. He had to make a stop, just 3.9 behind Alonso. If you consider they started on the grid quite some way apart, then Fisichella's having a good race here, and he's just banged in his fastest lap of the race so far, a 16.7. Alonso putting a bit of a fight up here. He wants to, at the very least, have a go at Raikkonen. Remember, Alonso has got almost no fuel in this car. His stop must be coming up soon. Raikkonen has taken on quite a bit of fuel, so the weight difference will be considerable, and Alonso fancies a little go at him, I think.
Yeah, he was certainly darting about, a bit of showboating, I would have thought, because it was about 5 car lengths adrift. But let's look down the field, and Raikkonen back out on lap 27, leading Alonso, who's yet to stop. Fisichella yet to stop in third now, just 3.5 seconds adrift of Alonso, his teammate. Montoya up to 4th. Michael Schumacher up to 5th. Coulthard then up to 6th. None of these have stopped, nor is Massa in 7th. Trulli, Ralf Schumacher and Webber, 8, 9 and 10, have all stopped for their first gulp of fuel.
And we think that Renault are ready, certainly for one of them, possibly one of their 2 drivers, possibly Fernando Alonso this time. We'll see. Meanwhile, yes, as in comes Alonso, Jarno Trulli has passed Ralf Schumacher out on the track. We haven't seen that on our TV screens, but Trulli has done Ralf Schumacher, and in comes Alonso.
Pay attention to the rear tyres, and let's see if they make a pressure adjustment. Yes, they do. So they changed the rear tyre pressures. Alonso not happy with that. They've left the fronts alone, more or less. The wear isn't too bad on the back, and his engine sounds a bit rough going out of there. I wonder if that's just the limiter, but certainly tyre pressure adjustment on the rear tyres.
Yeah, they want to, I would imagine they would have put them down to try and give him a bit more mechanical grip, balance the car up. And it was, thankfully, the rev limiter, because his car sounded quite sweet as he left, as soon as he switched that off. But there then is confirmation, and we did see it briefly in the back of our screens, that Jarno Trulli has jumped Ralf Schumacher. He's now up to what is a net 3rd place.
Yeah, Coulthard and Massa have been circulating together on the racetrack. They made their pit stops together, and a little bit of contretemps at Imola 2 weeks ago, which Coulthard said they had some... he grabbed him warmly by the throat afterwards, but Massa denies it, said they had a friendly word after the race. Certainly a couple of rude collisions on the racetrack between the two of them. It was followed by some afters for sure. And here, once again, they are together on the racetrack. The fastest men from Red Bull Racing and Sauber, respectively, in 6th and 7th places before the round of pit stops.
Hey, look how fast Fisichella is. That's a 1:16.2. That's a fraction off the kind of lap record that Raikkonen has been setting. Montoya's flying as well in 3rd place. He's just done a 1:16.1. Schumacher Michael done a 1:16.6 in 4th place. So they're really pushing hard on the low fuel. But is that going to be enough to get Fisichella in front of Alonso? If he keeps pushing at that kind of pace, he was about 2.5 seconds adrift. That's a stellar time. We'll watch Alonso, who's exited. He hasn't done a complete flying lap yet with his new fuel load, but Fisichella's got to have a great chance here of stealing the march on Fernando Alonso.
He has. He's been stealthily pursuing him, as you say. He got to within just over 2 seconds of him. And this extra laps that he's staying out over his teammate make all the difference now when you can't change tyres and get that surge of speed with a new set of tyres after your pit stop. Your first lap out of the pits is slow, so's your second and your third. And the cars that can stay out a little bit longer get a lot of benefit from that.
I don't think the team will want Fisichella in front of Alonso. That's not what they need, is it? He's 26 points clear of him. They don't want Fisichella now, even at this early stage of the season. They don't want, and there he is pitting. They don't need him taking points off Alonso, and they don't need to be trying to circumnavigate the rules and adjust track positions.
Well, Alonso is up in the final part of the lap, turn 12 now, as I think you might well do him, you know, as Fisichella just gets back up to speed. Alonso is exiting the final corner. Look at the top of your screens, there is Alonso. Here comes Fisichella. And it looks like those extra laps have made the difference. Indeed they have. Fisichella moves up into a net second place. Will be, once everybody's made their stop. Michael Schumacher has yet to make a stop. He is now in a real second place. And he's 14 seconds behind Kimi Räikkönen. And going quickly, fastest first sector of anybody so far, Michael Schumacher. So pivotal to his race now is how much longer he stays out in comparison with the others. There's Heidfeld. He was 11th when he made this.
So the big loser then here is Ralf Schumacher, isn't it? He's been passed in the stops by Jarno Trulli, his teammate, and Giancarlo Fisichella. Not working out at all well for him there. Michael Schumacher still going around now in the low 1 16s, currently third, and that explains why he had such poor pace in second qualifying this morning. But he was 45 seconds adrift there, wasn't he? So he's not looking at a win, but he's still looking at a handy haul of points.
Yeah, I think he'd like to get a podium from 8th on the grid. That would be some achievement, but he's going to need to stay out here for quite a few laps. A 1:16.019, fastest lap of the race so far. The trademark of Michael Schumacher to just bang them in at this phase of the Grand Prix. But the speed hasn't really been there in the early stages, and we've got a long way to go here. Only just approaching half distance in this Grand Prix. Everyone's tyres are going to be hurting by the end of the race.
Well, we know he's on the harder tyre. Everything is relative, of course. Montoya pits again. That's his second stop. Ted.
Yeah, there was a problem with the fuel rig. They must have not got any fuel in, because Juan Montoya in again. Ron Dennis looking on. I'm sure we'll hear the real reason in just a bit. But now they've managed to get the fuel into Juan Pablo Montoya's car.
That is a gift for Michael Schumacher, who's, well, he's going so quickly, he was going to leapfrog Montoya anyway. Michael Schumacher flying out there on the racetrack, and not only that, but Montoya rejoins in traffic as well. So that is going to cause havoc to Montoya's chances of scoring a good points haul here this afternoon.
Well, he lost 4 seconds with the spin, and what is that, 28 seconds? It's a long pit lane here, isn't it? When the cars are passing by at virtually top speed, so high penalty for making an extra pit stop. So best part of half a minute then taken out of Montoya's afternoon. Michael Schumacher does a 1:15.6, smashes the lap record set not half an hour ago by Kimi Räikkönen. The only question I've got is why in clear air wasn't he pushing harder? Was he just saving his tyres? Is the car not that good on a full load of fuel? But he's gone from doing 18s to 15s, and that is not all fuel load.
That's very strange. One of the Saubers diving into the pit lane looked like to me. Probably Jacques Villeneuve, I would imagine. I haven't seen him yet. Yep, there he is. 10th at the moment before making this stop, but Coulthard and Massa and Heidfeld, I imagine, will all leapfrog him. So another quiet afternoon for Jacques Villeneuve after a good run in Imola, where eventually he ended up 4th after he disqualified Button and Sato. And here it's just not really working for him this weekend.
Rubens Barrichello in the second Ferrari is backed up behind Mark Webber. He's doing 1:18.7s, and Michael Schumacher's doing 1:15.6s. So it's Barrichello losing heavily there. He was 41 seconds off the lead, and he hasn't pitted yet. And he pits now.
I tell you what, he might have a chance of doing something this afternoon. Michael Schumacher diving into the pits. Rubens Barrichello's worth keeping an eye on as well, because the two Toyotas seem to have slowed up a little bit in this phase of the Grand Prix. Rubens appears to be doing a one-stop strategy here this afternoon. Michael too. Wow, that's not enough fuel to get to the finish, is it? Very late first stop, though.
Yeah, late first stop, short middle stint. He'll be pushing hard again now. That's been prodigious pace, and but it still puts him out, I think, just in front of David Coulthard. Montoya having had the extra pit stop, so hasn't made him up too many places.
No, it hasn't. It'll all shake out in a moment, but he's certainly well behind the two Renaults circulating together of Fisichella and Alonso. Räikkönen, though, leading on lap 33, half distance in the Spanish Grand Prix. Rubens Barrichello rejoins the Spanish Grand Prix after what looks like will be his one and only pit stop of the afternoon. All pretty routine stuff, just clearing out the radiators. A lot of litter here in Barcelona with such a big 115,000 crowd. There's been all sorts of sweet wrappers and papers and crisp packets. And if they get in the radiators, they send the temperatures of the water through the roof. So you don't want to stop. One of the advantages of stopping twice is you get 2 chances to clear the radiators out. There's Giancarlo Fisichella. He's running a comfortable second place. He's leapfrogged teammate Fernando Alonso, who was strong in the early part of the Grand Prix, then started to fade away. And Fisichella stayed out a little longer than Alonso on his first fuel run, and that has jumped him right up into second place. So terrific run from 6th on the grid at the moment for Fisichella. And really the first time since Melbourne that he's had the upper hand over his teammate Alonso. Kimi Raikkonen, though, is comfortably out in front, 25 seconds in the lead, still lapping faster than the two Renaults. And Michael Schumacher has also made a pit stop. He is in 4th place now, having been 7th for much of the early part of this Grand Prix. He got in front of the two Toyotas thanks to that long first stint on the fuel. Trulli is in front of Ralf Schumacher, 5th and 6th, with Mark Webber, the big loser really, having slipped down to 7th place after that very early pit stop.
Absolutely, yes. Sorry, I gave you some misinformation. I thought I saw Coulthard's nose cone in the background, and Michael Schumacher slotted back out into his existing position, but he hasn't. He did get past the two Toyotas, who are not lapping particularly quickly at all at the moment, and Michael in a solid 4th place, and not so far behind the two Renaults. He's 10 seconds behind Fisichella, 2nd place man, and just 7.7 behind Alonso. So Michael Schumacher really on the move and lapping quickly again despite a fresh tank of fuel.
Yep, Mark Webber then going from 4th down to 7th in the as a result of making that early stop, and he's got away with it because a moment ago he was passed by Rubens Barrichello, made a little mistake, and Rubens Barrichello got past him, and then obviously Barrichello straight into the pits, so it didn't cost him a place ultimately, Mark Webber, but nevertheless another little mistake when being pressed by the car behind. We've seen it once or twice this season already, and he did it in Imola 2 weeks ago, something he'll certainly want to iron out of his game, I'd imagine.
Looking at the lap times, are pretty variable and inconsistent, but the wind has got up. It's quite a stiff breeze right down the pit straight, which slows you down down the pit straight, but much worse than that, it's a crosswind through those two fast last corners, turns 13 and 14, and I think that's why we're getting some variable times. Raikkonen steadied up a bit in the lead. He stopped that relentless pace that just seemed insane. He didn't stop any earlier than most, so it wasn't because he was on a light fuel load. He just was a man on a mission. He's got a 25-second lead over Fisichella, whose lead over Alonso is now down to just 3.2. Michael Schumacher 8.5 seconds behind them, and now all of a sudden struggling to match the Renault pace. It seems as if Fisichella getting in front of Alonso, Alonso's just suddenly re-upped his pace.
Certainly has. He's just done his fastest lap of the Grand Prix so far, Fernando Alonso, on lap 38, a 1:16.643. He's really pushing hard, as Barrichello, you can see there, who after his stop is now in 12th place, has the race leader coming up behind him to lap him. Gets the blue flag. Get out of the way, Rubens. He won't be able to do that, hold him up, that's for sure.
Well, if Rubens lets him through now, and he'll have to go on the off the racing line, so it'll be down the pit straight, and Rubens a touch naughty there, has to be said, but he'll now ease off and let go down what is off the racing line, but he's not easing off that much, is he? He's going to make him work for it all the way down there, and Raikkonen, understandably, not particularly happy with that.
Absolutely not. Had to go the long way round, Kimi Raikkonen. Rubens Barrichello will feel he was... As we see another super slow from away, as a front left, and then transferring later in the race to the rear left. With those long right-handed corners here at Barcelona, they take an enormous amount of punishment. Towards the end of the Grand Prix, everyone very concerned about how their left rear tyre is going to be behaving.
Well, that's interesting. The Renaults are now dropping Michael Schumacher at a second lap. What a yo-yo race this is at the moment. Jarno Trulli and Ralf Schumacher, 5th and 6th behind Michael Schumacher, about the same pace. Webber 7th, also about the same pace. And Coulthard now, one more time, in the points at the moment for Red Bull Racing. Massa, though, keeping him honest, just 2.7 seconds behind him in 9th. A recovering Montoya after a spin and a second stop for what we think is a refueling problem. Struggling down in 10th place, can't get past Massa.
Certainly can't, and he's 3/10 behind him, but Coulthard, yeah, in 8th place, looking good. He's had 3 points finishes already this season, first 3 Grand Prix, and Melbourne, of course, took the big 5 points. Tremendous afternoon for him there, and a couple of other points finishes as well, so he's lying pretty strongly in the World Championship, just behind Michael Schumacher, and set to add to that. What can Schumacher get out of this afternoon, though? Can he get either of the two Renaults? That's the key question, I think, going forwards to the finish. Fisichella is 23 seconds in front of Michael Schumacher. Alonso is only 10 seconds in front of him. It's going to be very interesting.
If you're wondering where Jenson Button is and you haven't been reading your papers and watching qualifying, he's on the beach somewhere, I would imagine. And what a shame. I think the fans have been punished there rather than the team. Quite clearly, they did breach the regulations back in Imola. Whether the penalty fits the crime is a matter of great discussion in the paddock here. But sadly, we don't see him. And what about poor old Takuma Sato, who's also been booted out unceremoniously? They didn't even look at his car in Imola. He was disqualified from there and disqualified as a whole. So you've got to feel even more sorry, I think, for Takuma.
Very interesting situation, what's going to happen with Honda there. There's a number of different options they could have for where they go from here, but for sure they're not going to take this lying down. They don't like these kind of allegations, Honda. And it's going to be a very interesting situation. You can see that Alonso now is right with Giancarlo Fisichella. He's closed him right down in that last lap. Fisichella may have a problem, but that last lap, an 18.7, a 16.7 for Fernando Alonso. So he took 2 seconds out of him on that lap alone. Has Fisi got yet another problem? He's diving into the pits. So it seems a little early. He made his first pit stop on lap 29, just 11 laps ago. It's too early for a scheduled stop.
I think he's got a puncture, because he was really struggling. Ted, can you see anything?
No, they think they've got a problem with the front wing. The front wing is ready. There we go. They lift it up, change the front wing. Maybe he's hit someone. He's either hit someone or bits fallen off. It looks okay to me, but there you go. They put a new nose cone on. Of course, they're not changing the tyres because unless they're sure he's got a puncture, they can't do that. And there we go, he's on his way. But, God, that's thrown away second place, isn't it?
Yeah, he's down to 8th at the moment. Coulthard yet to go through. The next engine you hear will be his. In about 15 seconds, but
the engine will be melting by now. Half a minute sitting there, coming in from race temperatures. We're wondering if he's been off the road. It looks like the tongue, maybe the underneath front section of the floor could be damaged. So we haven't seen any incidents, but Fisichella then with a major drama, losing himself over a minute really, although he did take a little sup of juice while he was in there.
Yeah, it's dropped him down to 13th. Unlucky for some. The computer says 11th, but well, Villeneuve's already gone through the frame. So poor old Giancarlo Fisichella from 2nd to 13th in the blink of an eye. There is the part that came off. This is lap 42. Raikkonen still leading. Lap 44 in Barcelona. We're riding on board with Juan Pablo Montoya. That's Felipe Massa in the Sauber in front. Montoya very keen to get past him. This is the battle for 8th place, the final championship points-paying position. Kimi Raikkonen is leading this Grand Prix as Mark Webber, who was the first man to pit first time round, makes his second stop of the afternoon. I'm delighted to say that the boss of the McLaren Mercedes team, Ron Dennis, joins us from the pit wall. Ron, the pace of Raikkonen in the early phase was absolutely mesmerising. Were you worried at all by how quick he was going?
No, well, we were too worried about going too fast, but we're trying to look after our tyres at the same time and make sure we had a commanding lead, and that's what we've got now. So we're really focused on bringing the car home safely and driving at a sensible pace. The only real remaining problem we have is to make sure we conduct the next pit stop smoothly.
So you were entirely comfortable with that stunning pace then, because we've just seen Mark Webber exit the pits with 22 laps to go, and virtually his left front tyre was bald, Ron.
No, I think our tyre condition is quite good. The cars are pretty well balanced. We have no understeer in the cars. The only thing we were a little concerned about initially was blistering the rear tyres, but we've got that in control.
What's your take on the other teams, Ron? I mean, obviously Alonso hasn't really been able to live with you today. What about Michael Schumacher? He made a bit of progress there. How do you think they're all going to go on the tyre wear front?
Well, to be honest, we're not too concerned about other people.
Left-hand side, unless he's been off the track badly. So Schumacher with a long, long way to go. Thank you, Ron. We'll talk to you later in the race. It's all unfolding and falling apart for Michael Schumacher.
You know something, the last time Ron Dennis, well, not perhaps the last time, but one of the times I remember in Hungary in 2003, he was talking to us, giving us the benefit of his insights from the pit wall. Do you remember he predicted that Schumacher would have a tyre failure? Every time we talk to Ron on F1 ITV during a race, Schumacher has tyre failures. And this is a pretty dramatic sequence here, what's been happening in the last few laps, because he's had to change the left rear for a puncture, and now the front left as well. The two tyres I mentioned early on that took the real punishment here in Barcelona. And these are dog days for Ferrari, aren't they?
we'll have to keep an eye on Barrichello in the sister Ferrari, because if they're tyre failures, they'll need to be doing something about that. But Michael did put in those blistering laps. Maybe he did blister the tyres. You'd have to say that looks more than a puncture, doesn't it, than a straightforward puncture. It did look like some kind of delamination.
Well, he got himself up into a podium position, Michael Schumacher. The strategy was good, but, well, something very strange happening with the left side tyres of that Ferrari. As you say, Barrichello will want to have a look at it. He's been one stopping this afternoon, so he's carried heavier fuel around, which gives the tyres even more pain. And, well, it'll be interesting to see what condition his tyres are in. At the moment, though, Kimi Räikkönen looking very comfortable. Lap 48, half a minute up the road from local boy Fernando Alonso. We heard Ted Kravitz say to Ron Dennis, "You're not going to spoil Fernando's party, are you?" And Ron said, "Well, I certainly intend to." It's happening that way. Michael Schumacher, that is turn 10. He's got 2 more corners to go to get himself into the pit lane. But he can't go too quickly with a punctured tyre, otherwise he'd damage the suspension and the aerodynamics. He's going to try and get something out of this afternoon. He's a lap up his rear.
Of Räikkönen, didn't he? When we were talking to Ron Dennis, he did lock that inside front up, but normally that's a flat spot rather than a hole. But if you lock it badly enough, you can actually wear a hole clean through it, particularly now that we've got a wear rate situation through the Grand Prix when they can't change the tyres.
Director there managing to find a pocket of Ferrari fans amongst the grandstands there, because by far the greatest number of fans here are wearing the blue and yellow of the region of Asturias, which also the Renault team of Fernando Alonso. And into retirement goes the reigning world champion. This is the third retirement of the season for Michael Schumacher. Ted Kravitz is there.
Yeah, he's just passed me. All the mechanics knew what was going to happen. They cleared a space for him in the garage. I think the front suspension had actually broken under that. He'd had to drive so long with the tyre in the state that it was. Front suspension broken, and he was going to be out of the points more or less anyway. So they've retired Michael Schumacher.
26 points behind Fernando Alonso at the start of this Grand Prix. Alonso holding on at the moment in second place. That would give him 8 more championship points. It would be 34, his advantage over Michael Schumacher. I know we've got a long way to go in this World Championship, another 14 races, but that will take some catching, and the body language in the Ferrari garage will reflect that. They were saying this weekend, we have got to start making inroads into this points advantage of Alonso's. They will be hoping that something similar happens to him. Race leader Kimi Räikkönen into the pits, second time round.
Just lifting the visor slightly to get a chance of some fresh air. In goes the fuel nozzle. They are heavy things to grab hold of, especially when the tube is absolutely full of fuel. And away he goes. He's got plenty of time on his hands. What's he shaking his head at? But he's just gone into cruise mode out front. He had a 27-second lead, and Alonso pits also from second place, remember.
Front left tyre looks okay, a bit worn, but still holding on.
A little tweak of front wing, and he'll release. Now, as soon as he goes over the line, he'll release the rev limiter, and then you get a tremendous acceleration, and he rejoins in front of the Toyotas.
Yeah, that's pretty important. Wouldn't want to have to battle with them, have them in front of him. We can see that Trulli, which is the front of the 2 Toyotas, is quite close to the back of him. Of course, the 2 Toyotas ready for the second stop of their own, so they'll be quick at the moment. This is Ralph's opportunity, though. You can see Trulli is hesitating slightly behind his old teammate Fernando Alonso, and Trulli leapfrogged Ralf Schumacher through the pit stops first time round. I think Ralph will be fancying his chances of trying to do the same back to his teammate second stops. See, Ralph at the moment seems to be slightly quicker. He wants to get by. They are in third and fourth places. One of these 2 is going to get a podium here this afternoon, because David Coulthard is 23 seconds behind them. And the reliability of Toyota this year has been 100%. They've got both cars to the finish in every Grand Prix. Ralph having another little look, so for sure this is a battle for honour and for the podium within the Toyota team.
Gives Alonso a bit of breathing space. He does not need to get mixed up in that squabble, because that's going to get serious. And Ralph looking very, very impatient indeed. Räikkönen leads. He moves into lap 51. And he has definitely calmed his pace, but he can afford to do so. Alonso is free in second place. Ralph then with a good slipstream against his teammate, and just had to get out of it when he finally got down into the zone, the heavy braking zone of turn 1. So it's all going to be about the stops. We didn't see why Ralph ended up behind his teammate in the stops. Didn't appear to be any major problems, just a slower, could have been a slower in-lap or an out-lap or whatever. There is the punctured left front of Michael Schumacher. And why is that? Strange. There's a strange sort of arrow shape on it, wasn't there?
Yeah, there was. The reason why Ralph got jumped was because he pitted a lap earlier than Trulli, so Trulli was able to go 1 lap longer on the fuel, and that made all the difference to him. He was able to leapfrog him in the pit stops. Obviously it'll have an impact on the second round of stops, and we will see who comes out in front. Nice little squabble here. Ralf Schumacher, not noted in Formula 1 for being the world's best overtaker, but he certainly gets involved in a lot of scraps. There's Ron Dennis, we were talking to him just before on the McLaren timing stand. No particular sign of concern, obviously just making sure that everything is okay. The second stop worked well for him. Into the pits then comes Ralf Schumacher. Once again, he's the first of the 2 Toyotas to come in, and that's going to hurt him.
That pit entry there is scary because you can attack it at absolutely full speed, more or less the same speed as going through the last corner, and you're just staring at a concrete wall. But you have to practice it and you have to get it absolutely right. Look at his front tyres, particularly our left and his left, of course. There, half of it is effectively worn away, and then it'll start sliding more and more. And as the rubber gets thinner, it starts to lose temperature. It's the movement of the chunks of rubber that give you the 100, 105 degrees centigrade you need to make these tyres work. And as soon as the rubber gets too thin, that's when your tyre starts to lose temperature.
Coulthard pits from 6th place. Felipe Massa is racing with him. They've been very close together on the racetrack. Juan Montoya also part of that scrap. This is going to be quite a significant one in terms of who finishes 5th, 6th and 7th this afternoon. I've seen Montoya having his problems with the refueling hose on his first pit stop. Had to make a second visit. But once again, Massa and Coulthard, nothing to choose between them in the Grand Prix.
Yeah, that's a grudge match, isn't it? Red Bull, who have been long-time sponsors of Sauber, moved by their own team, and the team they most want to beat, the team they probably see themselves initially up against, are Red Bull, so a bit of a head-to-head.
Villeneuve retires. Also, Red Bull Racing taking the Ferrari engine supply that Sauber have this year for themselves next year. A lot of talk of Sauber switching to BMW. More about that later on. Here comes Trulli then from 3rd. Now, where's Ralf Schumacher? Should be behind him if everything's gone normally. As he rejoins the racetrack, should retain 3rd place. Yes, he does.
Well, why is that then? It's somehow Ralph's pit stop's taking longer, and you can't see why, but a chunk too, 2 or 3 seconds longer.
Just 14 to go. The 2 Williams circulating together, 7th and 8th, Webber and Heidfeld. Webber in front of Heidfeld, but Heidfeld quite keen to get round his teammate. These two have been pretty close together at the end of Grand Prix most of this season. There's very little to choose between them in race conditions, but Webber certainly has the upper hand in qualifying, which gives him a stronger platform. So, just 13 to go here in Barcelona. Lap 56 of the Spanish Grand Prix. You missed nothing's changed. Heidfeld and Mark Webber there together on the racetrack. Juan Montoya is the fastest man on the track at the moment. He's in 5th place. He sensed the opportunity possibly to get the 2 Toyotas who are fading a little bit in terms of speed in this Grand Prix. He's just taken a second now to Ralf Schumacher, and he's now just only 1 second behind him. Ralf Schumacher 4th, Trulli 3rd, final podium position. And Montoya closing in on that as well. Trulli just a second ahead of Ralf Schumacher as Heidfeld makes his 2nd stop of the afternoon from 8th place. Well, it's been an interesting Grand Prix that's heading towards quite an exciting finish, I think. A few battles shaping up. Kimi Räikkönen absolutely stunning in the first stint of this Grand Prix, pulling away from Fernando Alonso in the lead. Alonso seemed to slow up a little bit towards the end of his first stint, perhaps the balance just drifting away from the car. They made 1 or 2 adjustments, though, in his first pit stop. Räikkönen able to rejoin without losing the lead after his 5th pit stop. Meanwhile, Fisichella, who started 6th, jumped Alonso at the pit stops, looking good in 2nd place, Fisichella, but then he had a problem with his front wing, and it all went very badly wrong for him. He's managed to recover to 7th, though, having dropped down to 13th after the unscheduled stop. Toyotas seem to fade a little bit, and Fisichella and Michael Schumacher jumping up ahead of them. Michael getting up as high as 3rd then, before on lap 44, a puncture to the left rear brought him into the pits, and a lap later, a puncture to the front left for the Grand Prix. His third retirement from 5 Grand Prix this season, and it leaves him a long, long way behind Fernando Alonso in the World Championship at the moment.
Montoya pits for the 3rd time. Remember, of course, the first time he came in, they didn't get any fuel in the car, so he had to re-pit, and that's why he's been flying. So that would put him, he was just catching the Toyotas in 3rd and 4th, but he was in a false position, really. He'd shown 2 pit stops, but had another one to do because of that refueling rig problem. You have to say, Montoya would have had a bit of a stellar afternoon without losing that half minute.
Well, David Coulthard has managed to keep ahead of Felipe Massa through the pit stops. He's now got Barrichello behind him as well. Coulthard then on for a point here this afternoon as well. There you can see the top 8, and Ted Kravitz in the pits has some more news for us.
Yeah, I'm down in the Renault garage. I've had it confirmed that Alonso has been suffering from blisters on the left rear tyre. He said they did change the pressures in the pit stops, and now he says the balance is okay, but he's now 24 seconds behind Raikkonen and about 24 in front of Jarno Trulli, so they told him to nurse the car home.
Well, Fisichella is closing on Webber. That's going to be the battle for 6th place. Ralf Schumacher is less than a second behind Jarno Trulli, and there's a podium at stake there for one of the 2 Toyotas who look like consolidating their position in the World Championship, although McLaren, it looks like they're going to get 10 points for the win. It certainly looks as though Toyotas are going to get 3rd and 4th here this afternoon. It's another strong result for them.
Nursing the car home that Ted was talking about is a question of reducing the revs, shifting a little bit earlier, braking maybe 5 meters early. You can lift off and brake. Actually, sometimes you lift off earlier and brake slightly later sometimes to put less energy into the brake pedal. And it's amazing how fast you can still go by almost coasting like that, and pushing up, of course, as well, but just taking in the car, and that's how you coast and nurse it home.
Hearing from the pits that Jacques Villeneuve had a water pressure failure, so retirement for him in the Sauber. 13 cars still running. Narain Karthikeyan is 26 seconds behind his teammate Montero, who's 12th. They've lost the 2 Minardis, neither of whom got off the dummy grid and had to start from the pit lane. We've lost Liuzzi, who spun off the track. We've lost Michael Schumacher, who had front tyre failure and possibly even a front suspension damage as a result of that, and Villeneuve as well.
Fisichella's been unlucky, though. He stopped, didn't he? It looked like he'd got a damaged car. His car was all over the show. He was holding up teammate Alonso. They changed the nose. They had a good poke around underneath, and since then he's been going quite fast. But that was strange. Then they were inspecting the nose. I don't know if there'd been some kind of, if he'd been off the road, or some kind of breakage in the front nose that was upsetting the aerodynamics underneath the car.
Well, Webber's going along strongly still. He's in 5th place at the moment. Fisichella, you can see, closing him down. Still no podium then for Mark Webber on the Williams adventure, and 5th place still his best result with Minardi a few years ago. So unless one of the cars in front, the 2 Toyotas, Alonso or Raikkonen, has a problem, he looks like matching his best result, but still not improving on it. There's the 2 Toyotas. We saw in the build-up to the programme how Mike Gascoigne working hard in the wind tunnel just to try and extract only little bits he possibly can. And that system is working very well. Jarno Trulli paid tribute to it yesterday after qualifying, saying Gascoigne's really got that wind tunnel working well now. They bring things straight onto the car. Sometimes we test them, sometimes we don't need to, because we know the numbers all add up, and they're all little percentage gains here and there. It's staggering how much these cars have developed already since the start of the season. It really is a development race back at the factories as much as it's a race on the track. All these cars well over a second a lap faster than they were at the Australian Grand Prix. Such is the pace of development in Formula One at the moment.
Well, you're listening to the engine of a Toyota, but watching Raikkonen and Fernando Alonso, if you were wondering why that didn't quite sync up. Really strange. We're still listening to a Toyota out there somewhere. But that's the engine noise you can hear. But nonetheless, right front tyre looks in good nick. Left front tyre kind of okay there for Fernando Alonso with just 6 laps to go. And he was talking of small blisters, just a bubbling underneath the surface of the tyre that gives a vibration and gives you an amazing amount of sliding around. And it's disproportionate to the look of the tyre when you finish. You think it was going to have craters all over it, but actually just little tiny bubbles.
Well, if it does that to the left-hand side tyres, what does it do to your neck? Presumably you're turning right so much all the time. Big strain on the tyres, big strain on you too.
Yeah, and if you watch some drivers going around turn 3, they're already beginning to use the protection on the left-hand side to lean against with their heads.
Just 6 to go then here in Barcelona.
Coulthard's not safe for a point yet either. Rubens Barrichello is really homing in on him now. Coulthard is 8th, Barrichello is 9th. Big fight too between Trulli and Ralf Schumacher. Trulli 3rd, Ralf Schumacher 4th. Finishing 4th is as bad as finishing 9th. You're just off the point, just off the podium in 4th, and you're just out of the points in 9th. And Ralf wants that podium. He needs that podium.
He certainly does. He hasn't had one so far this season. Teammate Trulli 2nd in Malaysia, 2nd again in Bahrain, and Ralf Schumacher really yet to make an impact. First time here though this weekend that he's out-qualified Trulli, and you can see that he really is trying desperately to get past him. But Ralf Schumacher's been involved in his own fair share of incidents trying to get past people over the years, and he really cannot afford to take Trulli out and jeopardise what's going to be 11 points for the Toyota team if they stay where they are now.
No, his best chance is to try and frighten him off the road, but I don't think Jarno Trulli's ready to be frightened anytime soon. If he picks up the slipstream, obviously he's in the same car, almost certainly in the same wing level, and you can see him just creeping up on us, but that's really not enough to make the difference in the braking zone. But Ralph's been known to run into his brother, so he'd certainly run into his teammate if he had to. He's not really close enough to take the risk at the moment.
Well, Ralf has collided with teammates in the past, Fisichella, Juan Pablo Montoya on several occasions. Here's Fisichella, though. He and the Mark Webber, who he's closing down on, they had a collision, if you remember, at the Malaysian Grand Prix, which took both of them out of the race and denied Webber a podium. There's not quite such riches on offer here today. Just a 5th place for whoever comes out top in this scrap, which is taking place a minute behind the race leader. So for the 2nd race in a row, Williams will go away thinking, good qualifying, but a minute behind the winner at the end of the Grand Prix. That's quite a lot of time in a 66-lap race.
Yes, I mean, that's from the front of the grid, as you say, over 60 seconds adrift. And who have we had fall out of that? Fisichella with a problem too. Montoya would have been ahead of them without his refueling problem. So, and remember, Barrichello and Heidfeld starting at the back, which gave them a break as well. So that's poor race pace from the Williams.
And the Schumacher as well. He was up there in the podium position, retiring, as we saw with those tyre failures. Jarno Trulli soaking up the pressure then from Ralf Schumacher in the closing stages. The crowd here, well, they've enjoyed their day in the sun. 24 degrees, very pleasant, with a nice breeze coming in Barcelona, the kind of weather that people emigrate to Spain for. Very pleasant all weekend. The track temperature 45, that's pretty hot by Formula 1 standards, as Raikkonen comes by to lap his teammate Juan Pablo Montoya. Ron Dennis, I'm delighted to say, the boss of McLaren Mercedes, joins us again. Ron, how are things going?
Well, obviously we're delighted to be where we are with Kimi, but we're still smarting a little bit with the nozzle problem. Probably cost us a 3rd place with Montoya if everything pans out. So obviously delighted where we are. Yeah, this is where you try and hold your breath for 3 laps.
Yeah, that was a bittersweet moment as Kimi laps Juan Pablo. Did you get no fuel in at all, Ron, at that stop?
No, there was a complete block on the fueling rig, and you know, benefit of hindsight, we'd have been better off taking Kimi's nozzle, but it's one of those things.
Was it a bit touch and go for getting round again? He had to come, he did another couple of laps, must have been getting a bit skinny on fuel.
Well, we were holding our breath a little bit, but we don't cut it that fine in these situations. It was really in the end quite comfortable.
Down the inside 1 second, Ron, as Giancarlo Fisichella dives past Mark Webber. That's for position. That's for 5th position in this Grand Prix. We saw that battle coming along, and he's finally got past him. Flavio's enjoying this, giving it a right hook. Nice move then by Fisichella. Ron, just one thing going forward from here, obviously Monte Carlo in a couple of weeks' time, and then the next few races. You've brought this updated kit, engines. We were talking about how Formula 1 is such a development race away from the racetrack as much as on the racetrack. How do you feel about your prospects going forward from here?
I don't want to Ted Providence, I'm very nervous to talk about anything until the end of the race, but obviously we're working hard to bring developments all the time to the car, and there's more things coming onto the car from Monte Carlo, but as there would be with most other teams, you know, that's part of motor racing. You constantly push.
Ron, we're watching Massa with a left rear puncture too. Are these tyres puncturing or failing?
Don't know about the other teams. We're pretty comfortable. We've still got a good trace of tread on all the tyres, but a little bit of blistering on both of our cars on the rear shoulders, but nothing to worry about.
Well, Ron, if you're not holding your breath, then you've got 2 more laps to go to the finish. Thank you very much for talking to us.
Thank you.
Ron Dennis there, the boss of the McLaren Mercedes team. Brilliant of him to join us during the race, getting a view from the pit lane. Fantastic insights during this Grand Prix from the man who employed Kimi Raikkonen, who gives him a car, and who is hoping that Raikkonen is 1 lap away now from his 3rd Grand Prix victory, and crucially his first of 2005.
25.6 seconds then. He's really just kept that margin, hasn't he, of exactly where he wanted it, responded to whatever Alonso could do. Alonso has got a similar margin behind him to Trulli, but Trulli's got his mirrors full. A mirror image of another Toyota Formula 1 car. Ralf Schumacher wants that final podium slot. Fisichella pumping in the fastest middle sector of anybody. His tyres can't be in too bad a shape, can they? And that's a tricky sector too. It's a half minute of the midfield of this racetrack. Fisichella flying, now he's past Webber, who's 6th, Montoya 7th, and Coulthard just holding off Barrichello for that final point.
Yeah, Fisichella is not going to get the fastest lap of the race, I don't think. Michael Schumacher has done that. I wonder if Raikkonen will let Montoya unlap himself. Perhaps not. He's got one thing in mind, Kimi Raikkonen, and that is coming out of this final corner and claiming his first victory of the 2005 season. It's win number 3 of his career for Kimi Raikkonen. Such an absolutely crucial one, and what majestic performance by him. We've seen all kinds of things from him over the years, but this would have travelled down from his home region of Asturias to visit him. Over 15,000, I'm told, have travelled over 800 miles to see him, and you can see waving as he crosses the line. They didn't get the win that they came to see today, but they certainly got 8 points, a solid performance that keeps him well up there in the World Championship. Raikkonen has taken just a couple of points out of him, so he's still 27 behind, but crucially, Michael Schumacher has now dropped 34 points behind Alonso in the World Championship. There are the 2 Toyotas. Trulli picks up his 3rd podium of the season. Ralf Schumacher denied by 7/10 of a second, and Fisichella will come through in a moment to claim 5th.
Yes, Fisichella does that now with a new lap record of a 15.6 on the final lap of the Grand Prix. What could he have done with that without the mystery problem? And Webber takes 6th. Montoya and Coulthard are lapped, so they've already secured 7th and 8th place. So Barrichello out of the points. No points for Ferrari at all.
2 Grand Prix this season that Ferrari have scored no points. And there's Alonso. Tremendous emotion then in the podium coming up. To have kept teammate Ralf Schumacher behind him and to have got a 3rd podium of the season. Well, I've asked you driver of the day now for the last 4 years we've been working together. I don't think there's ever been a day when it's been more obvious, but I have to ask you anyway who the driver of the day is.
It's a class of one, isn't it? Kimi Raikkonen. And his qualifying performance this morning was quite sensational. A well-earned pole position, perfect race, and didn't get flustered when he was getting held up in amongst the back markers. And his pace was just stellar in the early stages, and pumping those kind of laps in, qualifying speed laps in, time after time after time, physically and mentally is so draining and challenging. So a brilliant drive from Raikkonen, and himself right into the championship hunt.
And where would he have been if he had managed to hold on and get that victory a couple of weeks ago in Imola? As you were saying, 10 more points into his tally, and he'd have been not far behind Alonso and closing him down. So
it's nice to see 3 different chassis in 3 different teams in the top 3. We've got a much more open year, haven't we?
Definitely have. It's one of those years when at the moment it seems Michelin has the upper hand, notwithstanding the excellent performance of Bridgestone in Imola 2 weeks ago, when Michael Schumacher was 2 seconds a lap faster than Alonso in the middle part of the race. Here we've got, it seems Michelin are dominant at the moment, and that means that any one of 3 or 4 teams can grab the glory. Sign there from one of the McLaren mechanics, thanks to the team. One of the nicest trophies, I always think, the Spanish Grand Prix trophy, this large silver steering wheel. And King Juan Carlos of Spain waiting to hand it to Kimi Raikkonen. Big hug there for his fellow countryman Alonso. He's delivered today. The crowd are happy. Not delirious, but happy.
5 consecutive pole positions then for Fernando Alonso.
Podiums.
Yes, podiums.
That. He knew it coming here, especially after the disappointment of Imola 2 weeks ago. Ron Dennis saying there were no hard words after that. 15 minutes of anger, and then he was okay, but no anger here today. Tremendous privilege. Ron Dennis, who we had the pleasure of speaking to during the broadcast, collects the Constructors' Trophy. An emotional man. He's about to get doused in champagne, no doubt. Juan Carlos has been in one of his two-seaters, driven by Martin Brundle, of course, a McLaren two-seater, and Fernando Alonso, or Alfonso, as my bin man calls him, very charismatic little fellow, and he is looking very strong in the championship, isn't he? But he knows after the day that he's got a serious rival. One of them fell away, Michael Schumacher, with his punctures, but Raikkonen really declared himself here this afternoon.
Fisichella gave him a hurry up too, didn't he, his teammate, before that mysterious aero problem at the front of the car. Looking forward to finding out what that was all about. Jarno truly did a good job, really, and Ralf Schumacher, for some reason, losing a couple of seconds on each pit stop, either the out and in laps or some kind of slower procedure while he was in the pit.
Well, the 115,000 Spanish crowd came here expecting a Fernando fiesta. Instead, they got a Raikkonen rout. But the good news is, it's game on for the World Championship.
Absolutely right. Thank you very much indeed, James. Thanks to Martin as well. Alonso saying only champion would be standing on that podium in his native Spain. That world title is still very much on. Today, though, Alonso has to look up to the faultless Kimi Raikkonen. 10. McLaren 10 out of 10. Fernando Alonso, he'll be quite chuffed with picking up 8 at his home Grand Prix. Jarno Trulli in a rich vein of form for Toyota. They really are on a mission at the moment. Ralf Schumacher scoring, well, they scored 11 overall, didn't they, Toyota? Fisichella, all sorts of problems. It included a lap record, his performance here. He earned those 4 points. Mark Webber, 3 way back for Williams. Montoya, a spin. Extra pit stops as well for the returning Clement with a couple of points. And David Coulthard getting a point again. He really is doing well, scoring those points for Red Bull Racing.
After all the promise, after all the poles, after all the speed, a great and reliable run from start to finish.
Yeah, it was very good. The car has been perfect the whole weekend, and we knew that we should be pretty strong in the race. I think so. In the beginning, I pushed until not really even until the pit stop, and then I saw that I was leading so much that there's no point to really anymore put the car under so much pressure, and I just keep the pace up. I didn't go full speed and win quite easily. Finally it happened. Last race was close already, but I'm very happy for myself and also for all the people who's been putting lots of effort in the car. Everybody's working very hard, and finally we got some results. The test team has done very well. Everybody's working perfectly, so hopefully we can now start winning more.
Absolutely. It was a slightly disruptive start with the safety car coming out. Talk us through that, and also your thoughts in the closing stages, bearing in mind the problems you've had this year as the checkered flag approached.
Yeah, of course, you can never be 100% sure before you cross the finish line, so there's always something can happen. But so far, this race, it was perfect. I had a small problem on a pit stop. It's something with the engine. It didn't run very clean when I tried to pull away, and I don't really know what it was, but not a major problem. And on the start of the race, I had already a little cap, and then I saw in the third corner or fourth corner some yellow flags and safety car signs, so I slowed down straight away. But I don't really know what happened in the start at all, because I guess it happened on the backfield.
And going into this race, a very technical circuit, a lot of debate about how the tyres would perform with these new regulations. Your thoughts on that?
No, the tyres were very good. I think so. The circuit is not as hard on the tyres than it used to be before, now when they have resurfaced it. So I think so. The tyres, I could have gone much quicker in the end if I would have won, but there was no reason to push anymore. So I would say that the tyres worked very well. They lasted very good, and they were straight away good after the start.
Well, congratulations.
Thanks.
Fernando, a great day for you. Obviously not the win there. First of all, what were your thoughts when Kimi was pulling away from you at those speeds in the early laps?
Well, I was thinking that it was not possible to follow him. He was too quick at that moment, and also I was a little bit conservative with the tires, because I knew that was the risky part of the race. And after that, I didn't feel the car too good, so I was not pushing too hard. And then the car started to be better and better after lap 25 or something like that. And now at the end was perfect, but like Kimi, was no time to push, because in front I had nothing, and behind me was Arno 20 seconds behind. So when the car was good, was no time to push. But anyway, this second place here at home is like a victory for me. These 8 points in the pocket again is a fantastic result for me and the team. And again, for Monaco as well, because Minsk start quite on the back for quali 1. And Monaco is one of the circuits that should be an advantage. So I really want to finish this race, and in the podium is a dream for sure.
Are you surprised at the difference, though, in pace between McLaren and Renault today?
Well, I think it was not too representative, this race. I think we will have problems to beat McLaren at the moment, because they look very strong. But also we are strong, and I think Giancarlo set the fastest lap of the race. So I think we are there. We are very close, and we need to find something more. I think the next race is coming some new bits in the car, so we are totally confident that we can still win in races.
And of course, you have reliability, your 5th successive podium today as well.
Yeah, 5 races, 5 podiums. As I said many times this year, this start of the season is something that I never expected, and I hope to continue like this. I have to finish races to score points, and this is the only way to be happy and to have even more confidence race by race.
Thank you very much. And Jarno, your 3rd podium, and you weren't that confident yesterday, but a podium finish today. Great drive.
To be honest, yes, I have to say that was one of my best races in my career, because the car wasn't very good, but I really fight very hard, and I managed to keep ahead of Ralph. I had a different strategy. I was quicker with more fuel, a bit slower with less fuel. This is because the car set up. But in the end, it was a really tough job to be ahead of Ralph, which was very quick, and probably today he probably deserved a 5th position as well as me. It's good because Toyota is doing a great job, and I will never thank enough the Japanese for what they are giving me.
And they're going very well indeed, and so is Ron Dennis and McLaren Mercedes. Ron, you know your way around this circuit. I think Mika Hakkinen won here 3 times for you. What is it, 98, 99 and 2000. How pleased are you by Kimi's win today?
We're delighted with the win, but we're even more delighted with the nature of the win. Extremely dominant.
Frustrated because Montoya could have come third. You know, we had a nozzle problem, and that's one of those things in motor racing. But it's frustrating when we could have got a good result with him as well. But of course, we're here to win, and that's what we've done.
When we spoke briefly yesterday, you whispered to me that we're going to win here. And what made you so confident?
Well, you know, you do understand your underlying pace. You know, you have a lot of data. You know how much you've got in hand. We knew that we'd thrown away half a second in the first qualifying, and that we were pretty comfortable this morning. Our enemy was reliability. That was the only thing, and both cars finished reliably, so we're delighted for that.
Wins have been a bit thin on the ground since that golden period around about 2000, 2001. What have you been like personally in that time?
Well, best
Grumpy?
people... my kids would say grumpy. I mean, there's probably no one more delighted than my family at the moment. They're definitely going to be on the positive side because of this win, because they have to put up with my bad moves when I go home after failure, and we've had too many of those in the last few years.
Kimi Räikkönen, everyone's talking about Fernando Alonso as the natural successor to Michael Schumacher. I would think you might beg to disagree.
Well, as long as Alonso goes to Ferrari, I'm more than happy to agree. That would be a good place to have him, because...
Do you know something we don't?
Well, I hope so. No, I know nothing. But clearly, if Michael has any intention of retiring in the next few years, you know, they're going to be aggressively looking for the best best driver. In fact, to be honest, I think Kimi's now really coming to his peak. He's settled down well. He's obviously had a difficult beginning to the season. He's going to be very strong for the balance of the season.
Just about Kimi, he's averaging one win a season. You would hope he improves on that this time.
I would think we'll be able to keep this momentum going. We've got a very, very good racing car, good step on the engine here. I'm very confident that the additional improvements that we have in the pipeline will keep us ahead. But
errors in Australia. And Ron at the time said that cost us a podium. He was upset about that. Then he flat-spotted some tyres in Malaysia, and he's made another error here, but he got out of jail.
Let's see what Juan Pablo has to say about it. He's with Lou.
Juan Pablo, not an easy race for your comeback.
No, you know, it's very disappointing. You know, I had a great start. I thought it was a very unfair when Jordan didn't start to me just to put him straight in the... It's pretty sad to see that. You know, you can either stay there and make a massive shot and have the grid off, but you know, I thought the sensible thing was to try to move over, you know, and he just kept pushing into the grass until he managed to. So I was a bit pissed off about that. Then you know, we're coming back, and you know, pretty sad, you know, coming to the pits, no fuel.
And the spin?
I don't know what happened. I was out of the corner already, full throttle, and it felt like the traction control switched itself off and just swap ends.
I see you have ice on your shoulder. How is it?
Pretty bad, but can't you do?
He won't be playing too much tennis between now and Monaco, that's for sure. What about Michael Schumacher, 7 times winner here? He seemed to be putting on a bit of a spurt, and then the tyres gave away, didn't they?
Everybody's had problems with tyres, Jim, and I think they've underestimated the new track surface when they're going to full length. There's the 2 left-hand side problems. This is the 6th race in a row that Ferrari have failed. No wins. Last time this happened in 03, remember, it was 5, and after Hungary they made them big effort and came back in Monza. This is a big problem. They really, really needed to win, and here was the left front gone after the left rear had gone. We saw Massa later in the race, so Michelin had the same problems. We saw the front tyres of Trulli in problem, and Ross says the car is not robust enough. You know, we've got a great deal of work to do, and that's because they're forced to use the car in Bahrain. They're still behind.
No points for Ferrari, no points for Michael Schumacher.
Michael, 2 tyre failures in about as many laps. Do you have any idea what caused them?
No, not really. I could guess that I may picked up some debris on the circuit, although I didn't see anything, but that's the only explanation, because rear left tyre, it's a bit unusual.
Tyre wear is commonly an issue at this circuit. Was this something that you anticipated you might have a problem with? Maybe not as extreme as you did, but...
No, not at all. We didn't have any problem on tyre wear. Our tyres looked in very good shape, honestly. I would have easily been competitive until the end.
Once again, you seem to not quite have the pace in the early stages. You really came into your own as your tyres got more and more used. Is that something that you feel Bridgestone need to address to give you that pace in the early laps as well?
It would be ideal to have the same pace at the beginning as you have at the end, but sometimes you can't have everything, but we're going to work very hard for it.
Let's talk about the Toyotas. Another good scoring performance from them. Trulli and Ralf Schumacher.
No, it was very good, but again, Trulli's got the upper hand, and I think Ralf Schumacher is going to start getting very, very frustrated by this quite soon. And but he showed a lot of patience, because in the past here he has made thrusting moves at the end with his own brother here, if you remember, and it let Rubens Barrichello through into the points.
Must mention Fisichella, lap record at the end, mechanical problems. Could even have cost him a podium.
Yeah, a great shame for him. He was going so well. But he did turn the tables, didn't he, on Mark Webber with that great overtaking manoeuvre at the end to take a place off him after the two of them collided together in Malaysia. So he'll take a bit of fortitude from that result.
And Fernando Alonso, not the cross of victory, but second place, and that'll do nicely, thank you.
It'll do very, very nicely. I think they knew that they wanted to get the points in the bag today, but Kimi Räikkönen has very definitely spoiled the Spaniards' homecoming party. But leading up to Monte Carlo, which will be the 39th year of McLaren starting. They started in 1966 and their debut was down there. I mean, they'll be looking for a big win.
And we'll see in Monaco in a couple of weeks, not the outcome here that Alonso's army were hoping for, but Räikkönen and McLaren Mercedes back in the winning business. Cheerio.